Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Rebirth of Naruto, Saving Jiraiya at the Beginning. Chapter 81. Looking at Jiraiya, who was brought back, Tsunade was in a good mood and rushed over. "Are you okay?" Jiraiya hugged Tsunade and said shyly, "What are you doing? There are children here." Tsunade snorted coldly. "Why, you are scared now? The night before last, you were very bold. You took off your clothes and kissed her there." When Jiraiya heard it, he coughed a few times and covered Tsunade's mouth. This woman, once she was officially with him, she became so wild, especially after having physical contact, she became as clingy as a girl. Shikaku and Yamanaka Inoichi quickly avoided his gaze and pretended not to hear. For them, they had also heard about the relationship between Jiraiya and Hokage. They agreed and supported this relationship 100%. After all, they were both disciples of the third generation, and Jiraiya was very powerful. Tsunade, as Hokage, had not been married for so many years. Now the two of them were together, which was perfect. This meant that Konoha village had two people with the strength of Hokage living there at the same time. Naruto looked at Obito, who was somewhat angry, and said, "What other means of threat do you have? Use them together." Obito gritted his teeth and said, "It is true that I was careless, but, Naruto, you should know that although I can't take it away, I still have the ability to destroy the things you care about." Jiraiya broke away from Tsunade and snorted coldly, "You look down on me too much, the lecherous sage. Do you think that I must rescue Naruto just because you sucked me into your different space? To tell you the truth, I can still leave with reverse summoning. Also, you want to kill me. You should also consider whether you have the ability to do it." Jiraiya has officially confirmed that this masked man is not Uchiha Madara at all. Since it is not Uchiha Madara, Naruto said that he is a ninja in Konoha, so basically there is no problem. With his own strength, he can completely fight against a wave of lines. The Anbu guards directly under the Hokage also came over at this moment. The leader stood in front of Tsunade. They were just outside killing the enemy, but suddenly heard something happened here, so he was scared and hurried back with the team. As the captain of the Hokage's Anbu, protecting the Hokage is his first task. As for the safety of the village, it should be ranked second. With a swish, Hitaki Kakashi arrived at the scene. "Hokage, Jiraiya, are you all right?" Tsunade shook her head to indicate that she was fine. Obito was a little surprised when Hitaki Kakashi arrived, because he saw a smile on Naruto's lips. Sure enough, Hitaki Kakashi walked to the original Naruto and said, "Naruto, you asked the shadow clone to notify me and asked me to come. What do you want?" Naruto smiled slightly, looked at Obito in front of him and said, "Let the teacher meet an old friend." Hitaki Kakashi frowned. What does this mean? Jiraiya looked at the masked man in front of him and thought slightly, could it be that this person knows Kakashi? Shikaku was also analyzing Naruto's words. So, the age of the masked man in front of him should be similar to Kakashi. The one who knows Kakashi and has the Sharingan is. In a moment, Shikaku has analyzed a name, but that person is already dead. Naruto looked at Obito and said playfully, "Teacher Kakashi, you can get the title of copy ninja, you have to thank this person in front of you. If he hadn't given you the eyes at the Battle of Canopy Bridge, you wouldn't be famous in the ninja world." Hitaki Kakashi was shocked and looked at the masked man in front of him in surprise. He said in disbelief, "Naruto, what are you talking about?" Naruto looked at Obito and continued, "I know it's hard for you to believe it, teacher, but it's okay. Before I came, didn't I tell you? Now, I'll take you to verify it." As he said that, the real Naruto drove straight up. 10,000 Things Heavenly Induction. The Heavenly Way technique of the Samsara Eye was activated as soon as he came up, ready to suck all of Obito in. Unexpectedly, Obito was not a pushover either. He started a space-time vortex and escaped directly to a house not far away. "Don't waste your energy, Naruto. What if you know my identity? If I want to escape, what can you do to me? I have removed the mark of Flying Thunder God. What can you use to chase me?" The orange mark on the corner of Naruto's eye reappeared. Sage mode activated. Nine-tailed chalk. Le conjured up a hand, and then with his right hand, he directly rubbed out a Rasengan. Then, the fairy chakra was injected. Fairy technique, Big Ball Rasengan. With a chirp, a huge big ball Rasengan appeared, directly covering Obito's entire body. Obito snorted coldly, and had already activated Kamui, allowing his entire body to be in a different space. Outside, Shadow Clone Naruto came in front of Kakashi. Kakashi understood, raised his hand, revealed his Sharingan, and then directly injected chakra, changing it into a Mangekyo Sharingan. Kamui. Kakashi's Sharingan aimed at Shadow Clone Naruto, and with a swish, Shadow Clone Naruto disappeared directly from the spot and entered Kamui's different space. In the different space, Obito realized that the big ball Rasengan outside should have exploded almost, and he was about to come out. Just as he was about to open a coordinate to go out, a chirp sounded directly behind him. Obito turned back in surprise, and saw the golden Naruto, rolling a Rasengan, blowing it directly towards his face. You didn't expect it, Obito, I'm in. With a bang, Obito's mask was directly shattered. Obito was so scared that he broke through the alternate space and escaped to the real world. Shadow Clone Naruto looked at the half of the mask fragments on the ground and smiled slightly. The goal was achieved. Then he began to make hand seals in Obito's alternate space. Flying Thunder God, mark. Swish, 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 the Shadow Clone Naruto kept flying in Obito's alternate space, constantly marking the mark of Flying Thunder God on the stones in the alternate space, until the Shadow Clone's chakra was completely exhausted. Outside, Obito appeared in front of everyone wearing half of the mask. He looked at Naruto fiercely and said, "It's interesting, you have to do this." Naruto smiled and said, "You should ask yourself, are you really so happy wearing a mask?" Kakashi's eyes kept trembling, looking at the man in front of him in disbelief. Even if half of the mask was covering him, he could vaguely see that it was the face of his old friend. You are. Obito pointed at Kakashi angrily and shouted, "Shut up. Don't say that name. That person died in the Battle of Canopy Bridge a long time ago. You, a fool who didn't fulfill the promise, don't deserve to be called that name." Kakashi trembled after hearing this. Obito's body was so excited that the remaining half of the mask on his face fell off completely. Finally, his whole face was completely exposed in front of Kakashi. Kakashi finally saw the friend he had been thinking about day and night. In addition to joy, he was more frightened, which made him a little unable to calm down. He hurriedly stepped back a few steps, and it was Naruto who pulled him back. Kakashi pointed at Obito and said in horror, You are Uchiha, Obito." Obito looked at Kakashi with one eye, and his eyes were full of resentment. "I told you, don't call me by my name." After saying that, Obito directly made a seal, glared, and summoned a strong whirlwind with Kamui, and then Fire Escape, Die, Storm Dance. The fire escape technique combined with the wind escape technique produced a huge vortex of flames, rushing straight towards Kakashi. And what about Kakashi? Staying in place, motionless, he was still muttering, "It's all my fault. I didn't keep my promise to you, which led to you becoming like this." Shikaku and Yamanaka Inoichi hurriedly shouted, "Protect the Hokage." The Hokage's Anbu guards stepped forward. Naruto raised his hand and said, "Everyone retreat." Shinra Tensai. With a chirp, the huge vortex of flames was directly bounced away. As a result, the flames that were bounced off fell on the surrounding houses. The leader of the Hokage's Anbu guards rolled his eyes at Naruto. Knowing Naruto's chakra attributes, he didn't say much and directly made a seal. Water Escape, Exploding Water Wave. Continuously spitting out waves of water from his mouth, running around, constantly putting out the fire. Naruto came to Kakashi, patted his shoulder and said, "Kakashi, it's not your fault. You are just part of the scheme." Jiraiya looked at Uchiha Obito and was a little surprised. Tsunade noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" Jiraiya said, "I remember this guy was a disciple of my apprentice Minato Namikaze, and he was in the same class as Kakashi, but he died in the Third Ninja World War. I met him twice when I was having dinner at Minato Namikaze's house." Tsunade heard Jiraiya say this, and associated it with the things recorded in the secret scroll of Hokage that she had read. She frowned and said, "In that case, the death of the fourth Hokage was also related to him." Jiraiya nodded sadly. Tsunade couldn't help but complain, "What a rotten era this is. Why do apprentices like to kill their masters? It's really treasonous." Don't blame Tsunade for complaining. This is the third one she has met. First, Orochimaru attacked the third Hokage, then Jiraiya's disciples attacked him, and now the fourth Hokage's disciples pretended to be Uchiha Madara. Not only did he attack his master, but now he wants to attack Konoha village. Orochimaru seems to want to attack Konoha village too. Do these people have any special mental illness? If so, as a top medical ninja, I can treat it. As they were facing each other, a huge mushroom cloud rose at the gate of Konoha. With a bang, the air wave of the explosion even blew here. What happened? The leader of the Hokage Anbu asked first. Then, everyone saw a huge Susanoo, fighting with the eight-tailed Ushio. Naruto was stunned. When did Sasuke become so good at fighting? He was knocked down by himself, but he could still force Uncle Bai to fight with the tailed beast. Obito snorted coldly and said, Naruto, don't be happy too soon. I know I can't beat you now, but that doesn't mean I can't beat you. After saying that, Obito activated his own time and space vortex, and finally looked at Naruto fiercely. Naruto, I will come to you again. Naruto smiled slightly, and seemed not to be impressed by what Obito said. After all, in Obito's space, there are now hundreds of flying thunder gods marks, and he will have to shovel for a long time. After Obito disappeared, Kakashi came back to his senses and shouted, wait a minute. As he said that, he was about to chase him, but was stopped by Naruto. Teacher Kakashi, the grudge between you and him will be resolved one day. Kakashi's eyes were dim. Afterwards, Kakashi noticed Sasuke at the gate of Konoha, so Kakashi said, I can't leave any regrets. As he said that, he flashed directly in that direction. At the same time, the White Zetsu army was also slowly retreating. Yamanaka Inoichi reported the situation on the battlefield, and Shikaku said happily, Naruto must have just exposed the identity of the enemy leader and made him order the withdrawal. Seeing this, Tsunade shouted coldly, order Konoha to clean up the battlefield and drive all the enemies out of the village. Don't leave any hidden dangers. Yes, the main gate of Konoha. Sasuke was fighting with Killer Bee. Kakashi came here in a flash, but he didn't expect that someone would arrive earlier than him. It was Sakura. Haruno Sakura stood in front of the gate and shouted excitedly, Sasuke, stop it quickly, this is Konoha, our common hometown, why did you become like this? Sasuke frowned, a little annoyed, and raised his hand to slap him directly. Killer Bee saw that the situation was not good, and directly swung his octopus tail to block it. Hey, you little brat, you can actually do that to a girl. Sasuke said in annoyance. Get out of the way, you octopus. Haruno Sakura burst into tears. Sasuke actually attacked him. She cried with tears in her eyes. Why, Sasuke-kun, I like you so much, why did it end like this? I was treating the wounded in the hospital. When I heard that Sasuke-kun was here, I rushed over immediately because I was worried about Sasuke-kun's safety. I didn't expect that Sasuke-kun would treat me like this. Woo. Haruno Sakura covered her face and cried. She really couldn't accept Sasuke like this. She paid so much, why did she still have nothing in the end? You were really annoying. Sasuke was angry and very annoyed. He was already angry. Not only was he beaten by Naruto, but he was also entangled by an octopus and couldn't leave. Then Sakura came and cried, saying that she was like a heartless man. Please, I never gave her any hint of affection from the beginning, she just forced herself to give it to me. And she refused, and she had to follow me. Sasuke couldn't bear it anymore, so he jumped up and drew his bow. Flame shield, Kagutsuchi arrow. With a chirp, he shot directly at Haruno Sakura. Die, Sasuke yelled. Killer Bee saw that the situation was not good, and hurried over to rescue Sakura, because at this distance, his tailed beast bullet could not hit at all. Not good, at this distance, I can't make it in time. Killer Bee ran frantically. Here, Kakashi flashed over, then quickly picked up Sakura, jumped up and dodged, and activated Kamui, successfully changing the direction of the arrow. With a bang, a deep pit exploded at the place where Sakura was. Kakashi landed in a safe position, handed Sakura to the Konoha ninjas behind him, then jumped in front of Sasuke again and said coldly, Sasuke, you have fallen. Kurabi also came to Kakashi and said, be careful of his eyes, he may launch black flames at any time. Kakashi thanked him and then said, I am his master, I know him. Sasuke sneered and said, who did I think he was? It turns out that he stole an eye from the Uchiha clan, so he dared to copy ninjas so arrogantly, Kakashi. Kakashi frowned and said with mixed feelings, Sasuke, I can now fully understand the feelings of the third generation. It turns out that preparing to fight with his own disciples in person is such a heartbreaking feeling. Sasuke prepared a left eye technique and sneered, well, I want to send you to see the third generation like Orochimaru. Just as he was about to take action, a time-space vortex appeared next to Sasuke. It was Obito who came out, and at this moment he put on the mask again. Sasuke, the battle plan is cancelled, let's retreat. Sasuke frowned and said unhappily, you said to retreat, so I haven't destroyed Konoha yet. Obito continued to persuade. You also killed Danzo, as for Konoha, our current strength is not enough to flatten this place, don't act on impulse, come back with me first, and wait for us to make a plan, and then it won't be too late to destroy Konoha. Seeing that Sasuke was still stubborn, Obito continued, look, you have been fighting for so long, and you haven't even attacked the gate of Konoha. Doesn't this prove a problem? Sasuke snorted and didn't refute. Kakashi hurriedly said, Sasuke, the sea of suffering is endless, turn back and don't be stubborn. As long as you are willing to return to Konoha, I will promise to forgive your sins to the Hokage. When Sasuke heard Kakashi say that he would forgive his sins, he laughed as if he had heard a big joke, and said, it's really a knife cutting open the cow's butt, you are so smart that you forgive my sins. At this point, Sasuke stared at the direction of Konoha and the ninjas at the scene with bleeding eyes, saying, each of you carries the blood of my clan's destruction on your body, and you still have the nerve to forgive me. How shameless. I tell you, Kakashi, your eye is the evidence of my clan's blood. And that Danzo, that hand is full of my clan's blood and tears. And those of you who are living well in Konoha, if it weren't for my brother's sacrifice, how could they have a peaceful life? Each of you has original sin and must accept my judgment. Sasuke said it with anger. The ninjas on the wall of Konoha all heard it in disbelief, and even some younger ninjas thought that Sasuke was crazy and had paranoia. Only Schwanwojian was silent, because he had followed the fourth generation and more or less understood one of the secrets. Especially Itachi. According to the third generation of Hokage's Anbu friend, Itachi did not betray at all. His behavior was actually allowed by the top leaders. Kakashi looked at Sasuke and said with a heavy heart, my eyes were given to me by my friend. He asked me to help him to protect the precious things in his heart. Unfortunately, I didn't protect them well. Obito stood opposite Kakashi and watched silently. Kakashi smiled bitterly and said, I'm sorry, Obito, I can't help you see the future you want to see. After that, Kakashi's hand came to his eyes, and then he dug out his left eye with a strong squeeze, and blood immediately flowed out. Then, Kakashi threw it hard, still at Obito who was wearing a mask. Give it back to you. Obito caught it with his hand, looking at the bleeding Kakashi with complicated eyes. Kakashi panted and endured the severe pain, saying, I am Konoha Flagmaster Kakashi, not a copy ninja. My ninja way is that those who do not cherish their companions are not even trash. It was like this before, and it is still like this now. No matter who it is, it cannot change, even if it is to deny the former friend, now you, Obito. As he spoke, Reikiri sounded, and the chirping sound of Chidori was heard. Obito held the bloody glasses in his hand and snorted. Then he looked at Sasuke and said, Sasuke, don't get too excited, let's go first. Finally, Sasuke glanced at Konoha, and the golden figure that kept jumping not far away. Humph, Naruto, we'll settle our grudges next time. As he said that, Susanoo grabbed Karen and sent her to his side, looking at Obito and said, let's go, I have something to ask you when we go back. Obito nodded. Sasuke removed Susanoo, and then Obito activated the space-time vortex, sucked Sasuke and Karen in, and took them away together. At this time, Haruno Sakura broke free from the protection of the ninja on the high platform, jumped down, looked at Kakashi with concern and said, Teacher, why are you so stupid? Losing that eye, your strength will be. As she said, she quickly treated Kakashi. After watching Obito and Sasuke leave, Kakashi relaxed instantly, and then began to breathe heavily, with sweat all over his forehead and a bloody eye hole, which looked creepy. No more, the title of Copy Ninja Kakashi. Haruno Sakura performed medical ninjutsu to stop the bleeding of Kakashi, with a complicated look in her eyes. Naruto flashed over. Looking at Kakashi's eyes, he was surprised and said, Kakashi, your left eye, is it Obito? Kakashi waved his hand and said, no, I dug it out and gave it back to him. I know that this will make him stronger, but I don't want to owe him. Naruto remembered that when Kakashi met Obito in his previous life, he was more decadent than he is now. At that time, Kakashi was once trapped in Obito's state, which was caused by him, and Rin's death was a knot in his heart that he could not open. Therefore, in his previous life, when Obito attacked, Kakashi did not dodge at all. Naruto sighed and said, why bother, Kakashi? Kakashi smiled bitterly and said, at least, I walked out of the Kanobi Bridge. After that, Kakashi and Naruto looked at each other and smiled. Naruto comforted him, that's good. Letting it go may be the best for Kakashi. Although Konoha's copy ninja is gone, the legend of White Fang can still be inherited by Kakashi. Looking at Obito's figure going away, Naruto thought that Kakashi's visits to his grave should be less frequent in the future. Killer Bee came to Naruto and said, Naruto, I stopped the guy named Sasuke, but he didn't choose to continue fighting with me and ran away with the masked man. Naruto patted Killer Bee on the shoulder and said, you did a good job, Uncle B. With two whooshes breaking through the air, Jiraiya and Tsunade also came here. Jiraiya looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, don't you have anything to say to us? Tsunade also said, yes, Naruto, it seems that you should have known the true identity of the masked man a long time ago, right? Why didn't you tell us directly? Naruto smiled and said, if I told you directly, you wouldn't believe it. What's more, it's not easy to kill Danzo directly. Tsunade listened to the report from the Hokage's Anbu guards behind her and confirmed that Danzo was killed by Sasuke, and some important people in the Root organization, that is, Danzo's confidants, were suspected to have all died. Tsunade nodded and said, I understand. Naruto looked at Tsunade and said, Grandma Tsunade, there should be no resistance from inside Konoha now. With the death of Danzo this time, the two high-level advisors with Danzo will surely be very honest. Jiraiya frowned and said, in this way, it will be more convenient for you to communicate with us directly. After all, as long as we believe in you, Konoha will believe in you, right, Naruto? Naruto smiled darkly and said, you are worthy of being my master. Jiraiya sighing, he said, Naruto, you have really changed. I never thought that you, who are always sunny, innocent and passionate, would also start playing politics. Naruto said helplessly, there is no way. People can't just live in their own cognition. They always have to grow up. Tsunade stepped forward and said, since Konoha no longer has any resistance from you, can you tell me why you left Konoha and did a series of things that are difficult for you to understand? Naruto said very sincerely, I said, it's all to prepare for a real war in the ninja world. Exclamation mark. Quote, Kurabi stepped forward and said, I swear in the name of Kumogakure and eight-tailed Jinchuriki that what Naruto said is true. Jiraiya looked at Killer Bee and asked in confusion, why do you believe him so much? Kurabi, because Naruto showed me the future through his evolution, and Hachi also believes in Naruto very much, so I believe it too. When Tsunade heard that Naruto could evolve, she immediately became interested and said, Naruto, you also evolve for me to see. If that is the case, I will use the power of Konoha to help you with all my strength. Naruto shook his head and said, you can't see it because you have never touched the chakra of the six-path sage. Killer Bee can see it because Hachi in his body has touched the chakra of the six-path sage, so he can see it. Besides, now is not the time. The 5 major ninja coalitions have not yet been formally formed. Obito has not been truly resolved. I still need to be outside as a hypothetical enemy to make everyone more united. Quote. Tsunade frowned slightly, lowered her head and thought, like Itachi, watching the world from the dark. Naruto smiled brightly and said, I am not Itachi, I am Uzumaki Naruto, and my ending is much better than his. As he said, looking at the crisis of Konoha, Naruto lifted the Shadow Clone technique and removed the Nine Tails mode. Then, he put a hand on Killer Bee's shoulder and said to everyone, then, I will go back first. By the way, lecherous immortal, your arm can let Sister Shizune use your cells to cultivate Hashirama's cell arm, which will not affect your combat effectiveness. As for Teacher Kakashi, your left eye, I will see if there is any way to give you another one. Sakura, Tsunade-san, goodbye. Quote, with a whoosh, Naruto flew away with Killer Bee. At the White Zetsu base, Obito appeared with Sasuke and Karen. As soon as he landed, the rustling sound of snakes came from his ears. You're back. Kabuto pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose and said to Obito. Sasuke frowned and said, Kabuto, why are you here? Kabuto smiled and said, Sasuke can be here, why can't I be here? Sasuke snorted and said, it seems that you are stronger than before after leaving Orochimaru. Kabuto was very pleased to hear Sasuke's praise. Because he always claimed that he was the real successor of Orochimaru, and he was very jealous of Sasuke. When Sasuke followed Orochimaru, he enjoyed the best treatment, and all resources were piled on him, which cultivated Sasuke's abilities. Otherwise, he would not have achieved what he has today. Looking at myself, I was completely free-range, a worker. I was able to get to where I am today because I took one step at a time, constantly collecting strength and shedding my skin, which allowed me to surpass Lord Orochimaru in form. Karen stood behind Sasuke, and after sensing it, she came to Sasuke in surprise and said, Sasuke, I feel that Kabuto's chakra is very close to the natural state, with only a small part of his own chakra. Sasuke nodded. Then, Sasuke looked at Kabuto and frowned, saying, it seems that you have grown a lot over the years. The reflection on the glasses flashed the strange light in the corners of Kabuto's eyes. He said excitedly, of course, I am no longer a snake. I have surpassed Lord Orochimaru and become a real dragon. Looking at the smug Kabuto, Sasuke guessed that this guy would not really go to the Raichi cave to practice the same fairy art as Naruto. If that was the case, this guy really surpassed Orochimaru. After all, when Orochimaru was alive, he did not successfully shed his skin and become a dragon. Obito said, okay, you guys can stop reminiscing about the past. Let me tell you the purpose of looking for you two. Sasuke looked at Obito and said, why don't you explain your identity? Since you are not Uchiha Madara, and since you know Kakashi, it should be convenient for you to get to know me as well. Kabuto licked his lips and said, yes, this is already an open secret. As partners, I think it is necessary to be honest with each other. Obito was silent for a few seconds, then turned his back, took off the mask, and then put Kakashi's back into his eyes. Because Obito himself has Hashirama cells, he can use it by pressing his eyes on them and fusing them. Shaking his head, Obito sighed and said, that's much better. As he said that, Obito turned around and looked at Sasuke and Kabuto and said, let me introduce myself to you again. My name is Uchiha Obito, Madara's designated successor, and the implementer of the Moon Eye Plan. Sasuke looked thoughtful. He seemed to have some impression of this person's name, but he also seemed not to have any. Without organizing the prophecy, Sasuke directly asked the doubts in his heart. I want to ask you, where were you on the night of the Uchiha clan extermination? Obito looked at Sasuke and said, I was helping your brother to clean up things. Sasuke frowned and said, didn't my brother destroy the clan alone? Uchiha Obito laughed and said, my stupid fellow clansman, with your brother alone, do you think he can kill the Konoha police department at the same time and clean up the rest of the clan at the same time? Sasuke's hand has slowly reached for the sword behind him. Why didn't you try to stop my brother? Why didn't you try to save the clan? Looking at Sasuke, whose Mangekyo Sharingan had already been activated, Obito said indifferently, do you think I still need to answer this question? Do you think it's realistic? Do you think that when I promised your brother didn't think about joining forces with me to save the clan? Hearing Obito say this, Sasuke fell silent, and the hand that was about to draw the sword was put down again. The resentment towards Konoha in his heart became even stronger. Kabuto looked at Obito, who had a pair of complete Mangekyo Sharingan, and his eyes narrowed slightly and said, did you just find your other eye? Obito groaned, rubbed his eyes that had just returned, and said, I lent it to someone for many years. Maybe he felt too guilty, so he returned it to me. Kabuto thought, this person is not Hatake Kakashi. Kakashi, right, Obito said without denying, you have already guessed my true identity, why do you have to ask again and again? Kabuto smiled slightly. He enjoyed the pleasure of controlling people. Who told you that you always pretended to be cool, using the name of Uchiha Madara, playing mysterious all day long, and making conditions with him? Ha ha ha, when he summoned the real Uchiha Madara corpse, he was dumbfounded. Sasuke asked, what is your relationship with Hatake Kakashi? Without waiting for Obito to answer, Kabuto said, he and Hatake Kakashi were once disciples of the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, and they were in the same class, just like you and Naruto. But later, for some unknown reason, he died in the Battle of Kanobi Bridge, and Kakashi obtained the Sharingan at that time, which should have been given by him. Quote. Sasuke observed Obito and found that when Kabuto was talking about his past, Obito was very silent, as if he didn't want to recall his past. No wonder this guy always likes to wear a mask and likes to act under the name of Uchiha Madara. It turns out that he doesn't want to face his unbearable self in his heart. From this point of view, he and himself are the same kind of people. Sasuke smiled slightly and said, it's so good. Only by understanding each other can we cooperate better. Seeing that Kabuto and Sasuke had nothing to say, Obito said, right now, we are going to launch the 4th Ninja World War. Let's summarize our current strength: the 7-tailed beasts, the White Zetsu army, the large number of undead ninjas on Kabuto's side, and the 3 of us. That's all. Kabuto wondered, isn't this enough? Obito sighed and said, it was enough, but a very annoying guy appeared and broke the key link in my plan. Sasuke sneered, is it Naruto? Quote. Obito nodded and said, yes. He took away Nagato's Samsara Eye, which is a headache. Moreover, Naruto now basically has no way to deal with him. At least, I can't really deal with him. What's more, he has mastered the space-time ninjutsu and can change the battlefield and escape at any time. Kabuto tried, how about I revive Madara and let Madara fight Naruto? Obito looked at Kabuto and finally got to the point. That's what I meant, so I asked you to come, and I have another plan. Sasuke asked curiously, what plan? Obito looked at Sasuke and said, the key to this plan is you. Sasuke looked at Obito, not sure what Obito meant by this sentence. Obito muttered, I just said that Naruto stole the Samsara Eye. The Samsara Eye is indispensable for controlling the 7-tailed beasts and the Outer Path demon statue. Obito looked at Sasuke and said, Nagato's Samsara Eye, which Naruto has now, actually belonged to Uchiha Madara. He chose Nagato because he was from the Uzumaki clan and had a strong vitality that could adapt to the Samsara Eye, and more the important thing is that the Uzumaki clan is actually the bloodline of the 6-Path Sage clan, so they are not opposed to the Samsara Eye. And you, Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto, you are possessed by a kind of invisible power. Chakra, especially you, Sasuke, the reincarnation chakra in you is the same as that of Uchiha Madara. So, I want to cultivate the Samsara Eye from you. Quote. Kabuto seemed to have heard of some new great experiment, and said excitedly, you mean, let Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan be transformed into the Samsara Eye? Obito he nodded and said, yes, Uchiha Madara has successfully opened his eyes, so I think Sasuke may also be able to cultivate a new Samsara Eye. Sasuke frowned and said, how confident are you? Obito said, I don't know, because this is just my guess, but once you get the Samsara Eye, you can control the 7-tailed beasts. At that time, your power will be the strongest in the world. Destroying Konoha and surpassing Naruto are all very simple things. Quote. Sasuke narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking about something. He thought, if he obtained such a strong power, and he was the most powerful person in the world, would he really destroy Konoha? No, another thought came to Sasuke's mind. If he is really the strongest man in the world, he will kill everyone who knows him, and then unify the ninja world, and become the shadow of the whole world, controlling all the evil in the world, bearing the hatred of all people, and whoever starts the war, he will destroy anyone. This kind of world is the real peaceful world. Sasuke thought so. He felt that this was his brother's ninja way. Well, unknowingly, Sasuke's hatred for Konoha began to transform for the hope of transforming the entire ninja world. Okay, I promise you. When Obito saw Sasuke agreed, he smiled slightly. Then, Obito looked at Kabuto and said, Kabuto, this may require some technical support from you. How about it, are you interested in joining? Kabuto licked the corner of his mouth and said, as expected, you are inviting me to show your true face. Others' ways have changed. Yes, that's right. I am very willing to join this project. After all, even if Lord Orochimaru were still alive, he would not be embarrassed to refuse such a truth as cultivating the samsara eye. Quote. Obito saw that his goal had been achieved, then he said to the two of them, come on, I'll take you to my laboratory. So, Sasuke and Kabuto followed Obito and walked deep into the base. With a rustle, Black Zetsu emerged from the ground not far away, popped up. Looking at the three people going away, Black Zetsu murmured, hee hee, this Obito kid is sometimes more reliable than Madara. I thought this kid couldn't handle it, so I induced Kabuto to give Madara to summon him now. Now, we can only make good use of Sasuke as a chess piece. Quote. Thinking of that fool Naruto, Black Zetsu was annoyed. This reincarnation of Asura is really a tough guy, he doesn't play by the rules at all. The Asuras in the previous life were all innocent and sunny, silly, how come they became so sinister in this life? Dig out Indra's samsara eye and take it with you. Black Zetsu has a headache because his plan to revive Wei Yuyi has been delayed for a long time because of this Naruto. Unfortunately, this Naruto is so powerful now. Even if he sorts out the current, it's not easy to kill him with all the resources at hand. Black Zetsu thought to himself that if Obito failed and Naruto won, he could try to seduce Naruto and include him in his plan. After all, for so many lives, they have been using the reincarnations of Indra and Ashura, and Naruto is the only one who has turned evil. Yeah, there is a way. Black Zetsu thought about the way out, and then it faded into the earth. The Hidden Rain Village. Naruto flew back with Killer Bee. The Yuhu Jizaijutsu was always there, and Nagato was the first to notice Naruto's return. Naruto and the others are back. When Xiaonan heard this, her paper body flew and rushed away. Just as she reached the door, Xiaonan appeared in front of Naruto. Junior brother, you are back. Naruto saw the person coming and laughed. Senior sister Xiaonan. Xiaonan said with a smile, how is it, is the trip going well? Naruto nodded and said, I am quite satisfied. Basically, it is going according to my plan. That's good. Nagato came out from behind and looked at Naruto and said, Junior brother, if you don't come back, your senior sister Xiaonan will be worried to death. Xiaonan rolled her eyes at Nagato and said, you are the one who talks too much. Kurabi twisted his arm and said, I am tired for so many days. I will take a shower and have a good sleep first. Quote. Naruto patted Killer Bee and told him to go first. After all, it was hard enough to trick Uncle Killer Bee and make him wait in the woods for a night. Conan looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, I have selected 36 people in the village according to the conditions you provided. They are all teenagers and locals. They have been in the Hidden Rain village since they were young. Naruto nodded and said, okay, after I meet Uncle Orochimaru, senior sister Conan, you will take me to see it. Conan nodded and said, okay, then I will go and gather them first. Naruto did not stop and walked into the tower. After a while, he came to the door of Orochimaru's laboratory. Pushing the door open, he saw Orochimaru doing experiments seriously. Naruto did not speak, and sat down on a bench on the side. You are back, Naruto nodded, and then said, how is the progress? Quote. Orochimaru sighed and said, there are clues and a certain basis for progress, but the actual experiment may be difficult. Naruto nodded and said, it is definitely difficult. After all, this is just a step. Whether the 10 Sharingan can really evolve into the Samsara Eye depends on fate. Orochimaru put down the experimental equipment in his hand, looked at Naruto and said, Naruto-kun, sometimes I admire you. How can you think of it? Quote. Listening to Orochimaru's question, Naruto smiled slightly. Some things may sound incredible, but they are real. If I say that I have died once and come back to save the world, would you believe me, Uncle Snake? Orochimaru said seriously. He looked at Naruto for a few seconds and said, I believe it, because nothing is more incredible than your behavior and existence. Naruto smiled knowingly and said, Uncle Snake, your desire for truth is really far beyond me. Orochimaru looked at Naruto and said, according to the information you gave me, even if we cultivate the samsara eye in your body, we lack the cultivation body and this cultivation body. Orochimaru took out the scroll Naruto gave him, looked at Naruto and said, "Are you going to catch him back?" Naruto was rarely lost in thought and said, "If my guess is correct, Obito attacked the after Yi's failure, he had to face the 5 major powers, namely the ninja army that is about to be formed will have to face us who cannot be destroyed, he will be very anxious. Once anxious, he will use his trump card, but unfortunately, the means by which he controls the trump card is my eyes, which he will definitely not be able to take away, so he will definitely think of the same method as me to cultivate a new samsara eye." Quote. Orochimaru thought, "Well, if it were me, I would do the same, not to mention that Kabuto seems to be cooperating with Obito, should provide him with corresponding biotechnology support." Quote. Naruto smiled and said, "I guessed it." Orochimaru subconsciously tried, "Then we." Thinking of the Sand Village, Senju Granny is also in Kabuto's hands. Otherwise, Senju Granny's reincarnation technique is a very good technique. Naruto thinks that if necessary, he should talk to Kabuto. If it doesn't work, he should hurry up and let Tsunade Granny form the 5 great allied forces will attack Obito. At that time, the 5 Kages will lead the 5 great allied forces. Obito, who does not have the Samsara Eye, will have no choice but to summon Madara. When that time comes, he will take action himself. There will be many changes and opportunities in this process. Right now, all Naruto can do is to finish the tasks at hand. Wait for the opportunity. So Naruto got up and walked outside. Go. Orochimaru smiled slightly, thinking to himself, it turns out that Naruto, who has always taken the initiative, also has to wait for the wind to blow. Naruto came to senior sister Xiaonan, who had already summoned 36 talented people from the Hidden Rain village. The youngest child was 12 years old, and the oldest was 16. Naruto looked and counted, and found that there were more boys, 22, and only 14 girls. Xiaonan looked at these children and said, "They are all Yuyin, born and raised here. They were found in the village when they were young. Their political background is absolutely clean, and they are absolutely obedient to God." There was a boy who was quite courageous, looking at Xiaonan whispering with Naruto, he suddenly had some guesses in his heart and asked, "Excuse me, are you the god Pain?" Naruto originally wanted to say that he was a god, and then in order not to erase the totem established in the children's hearts, Naruto smiled and said, "Yes, I am the god Pain you are talking about." The children immediately showed admiration. Naruto was immediately touched, because when the 3rd Hokage came to the ninja school to give lectures, he was also this kind of admiring eyes. "I want to work hard to become a figure like Pain." "Yes, I want to too. Ha ha ha, you are the last one, how can you compare to me? I am the real Pain. God, feel the pain." As the child spoke, he opened his arms to release the ultimate move. Naruto smiled slightly. How come this little guy is so much like his former middle school self? So he squatted down and said, "Hey, kid, what's your name?" The kid who was being questioned saw Naruto asking him. He was immediately as excited as if he was called by his idol. To reply, "To God Pain, my name is Yahiko." Naruto frowned and looked back at Konan. Konan said, "He is a worthy orphan was adopted by Nagato and I gave her this name." Quote. "I see." Naruto looked at him and smiled, then Yahiko, "What's your last name?" Yahiko smiled and said, I was adopted by Angel's sister and have lived in Yuyin since I was a child, so I gave myself a name, Yuyin Yahiko." Naruto laughed, "What a sunny and optimistic child. Then can you tell me why you want to become a god like Pain?" Yahiko said without hesitation, "Because as long as I become a powerful person like Lord Pain, everyone in the village will recognize me and admit that I am powerful." The smile on Naruto's eyes became stronger. He stood up and looked at these people and said, "How many people have the same idea as Yahiko? Raise your hands." As soon as Naruto said this, the children looked at each other, and then saw someone raise their hands, and the others followed suit. Only a few people did not raise their hands. Naruto pointed at the few people who did not raise their hands and asked what their purpose was. Among them, a little girl named Haruyu said, "In fact, I am not sure if I can become a figure like Lord Pain. My dream is actually very simple. I want to learn powerful medical skills. If my companions are injured, or people in the village are injured, I can treat them and protect them." Several other boys and girls said that they are willing to follow the companions who can become the god of pain and protect Yuyin together. Naruto praised. Very good, finding your own ninja way is the most important point. Then, Naruto looked at those who raised their hands and said, in fact, I want to tell you who want to be like me, it is not that you will be recognized by everyone if you become Pain God, but you can become Pain God only if you are recognized by everyone, do you understand? When Naruto said this, the 36 people below all opened their mouths slightly and looked at Naruto, because in their world values, powerful people will be admired and recognized by everyone. However, Naruto was instilling the concept of their team and village. Xiaonan knew that Naruto was establishing the values of the organization. Then, Naruto looked at Yuyin Yahiko and said, Yahiko, your name was the name of a very outstanding ninja in the Tien organization. Later, he died on the road to protecting Yuyin. So, don't live up to the name given to you by Angel's sister, and grow up quickly. Yuyin Yahiko looked at Xiaonan in surprise, and a different emotion surged in his heart. He always regarded Angel's sister as a mother. He didn't expect that his name was so meaningful. He looked into Naruto's eyes, showed a firm look and said, I will. Naruto patted his shoulder, and then said, I will introduce your coach to you later. Kurabi looked at the children in front of him, and one head suddenly became bigger than the other. Naruto, you mean, you want me to be their teacher? Naruto nodded and said, of course, you got the title of Killer Bee for nothing, it would be a pity if you don't pass on all this experience. Besides, you are idle anyway, why not help me train talents? Quote. After that, Naruto leaned close to his ear and said, when the Otsutsuki attack, these will be the backbone of the future battle. Quote. Kurabi was surprised and asked, really? Naruto gave him a firm look and said, how can I lie to you? So, you must teach me everything you have learned in your life. Don't let me hide it for you. A few moves, resulting in not being able to save your elder brother, how embarrassing. Quote. Kurabi was surprised. These people are also related to saving my elder brother. Naruto nodded again. Kurabi thought, then he really put in a lot of effort. After all, Naruto traveled back in time, so what he said must be right. Naruto looked at Killer Bee's attitude and was basically sure that his trick was successful. As expected, sometimes Jinchuriki are much easier to talk to than non-Jinchuriki. Seeing that Hachi has great confidence in him, Killer Bee also has great confidence in himself. Why is there such a big gap between the tailed beasts? When I think of this, Naruto thought that he hadn't talked to the fox for a long time. Just as he was about to go back to his room, Killer Bee looked at Naruto with Conan's list and said, Naruto, these 36 people have all 5 attributes. I can't just teach the lightning attribute. Naruto looked at it and said, it's okay, you can teach taijutsu first, as well as assassination, fighting skills, and ninjutsu. There is also senior brother Nagato, he can also teach, I will teach the big class first, and after a while, when I revive one person, there will be more coaches. Quote. Kurabi raised his eyebrows, his eyes full of disbelief. The coach in the human world is not enough, so I have to find one in the underworld. Naruto returned bedroom, then lie down, and enter the place where the 9-tailed fox is sealed. Hey, Kurama, you haven't seen me for such a long time, have you missed me? Kyuubi was lying inside the door with one eyelid drooping. Knowing that Naruto was coming, it didn't even open its eyes. Naruto smiled slightly, as arrogant as ever, in this respect, he is really a bit like Sasuke. Naruto walked in with a swagger, more unscrupulous than last time. On the one hand, he knew that the 9 tails had actually begun to accept him at this moment, because, when he used the 9 tails chakra in large quantities, his own chakra was also transferred to the 9 tails. When Konoha was dealing with 100,000 white Zetsu, Naruto's own chakra was actually not enough, and the 9 tails was also, instead of absorbing his, it silently sent its own 9 tails chakra to itself. This means that the 9 tails is actually about to accept what Naruto said. In addition, after fighting with Killer Bee, the 9 tails also felt the chakra of the 8 tails revealed that Naruto was also constantly in contact with other tailed beasts. On the other hand, Naruto's own strength was the strongest backing. Naruto came to the head of Kyuubi, smiled slightly and said, "Look at me, Kyuubi. Otherwise, I'll treat you to meatballs." When Kyuubi heard that he was going to treat himself to meatballs, he remembered the unpleasant experience last time. Naruto, you little brat, you are bringing up all kinds of issues. The Nine-Tails got angry on the spot, opened his eyes, and climbed up. This time he opened his eyes, it was incredible, the Nine-Tails saw Naruto's Samsara eye directly. You this guy. Although I know that Naruto has the Samsara eye, it is still very amazing when I actually see it, especially that Naruto with the Samsara eye can control himself without even asking himself to eat meatballs. Thinking of this, Juwei understood a little bit why this guy stood in front of him without any defense. For a moment, Juwei thought that he had spoken too loudly just now. Naruto sighed and said, an old friend came to see you, why are you like this? Kyuubi snorted coldly, then lay down and said, I've given you my chakra for free, what else do you want? Naruto he looked at it and said, I want to discuss something with you, do you want to do it? Kyuubi glanced at him and said, no. Naruto was shocked and said, I haven't said it yet. Kyuubi, you kid, definitely nothing good will happen. Quote. Naruto pointed at the Nine-Tails and said, I'm warning you, you can be as arrogant as Sasuke, but don't go too far. You are all my best friends, but sometimes, when I get angry, you know it's to hit people. When Kyuubi heard this, Naruto actually regarded it as his best friend, and for a moment, his heart felt warm. None of your human words are true, they are all coveting the power of our tailed beasts. Naruto laughed when Kyuubi said this. In fact, you almost believe me, but you are still pretending here. You said this, you don't believe it yourself, saying that I covet your power, you know how miserable I was because of you when I was a child. Kyuubi heard this and did not refute. Naruto continued. Okay, old friend, let me show you the future. Quote. So, Naruto floated in front of the Nine-Tails, and the Samsara eye turned. Suddenly, the Nine-Tails' eyes showed the Samsara eye state, and then a lot of memories began to pour into the Nine-Tails' mind. What did it see? During the ninja war, Naruto confessed to it affectionately, saying that it was no longer the Nine-Tails demon fox, but his most cherished companion like Konoha village. So, he and Naruto officially became one, and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki mode was activated. Naruto was responsible for Gaga, and he was responsible for killing. What did it see again? It teamed up with Naruto and was passively beaten. The guy named Sasuke actually ran into its Nine-Tails body and put on a set of armor for itself. Take a closer look. It was actually Susanoo's transformation. Then, what did it see again? It actually tolerated the chakra of those toads and mixed it with its own chakra and then fought with Six Paths Obito. Also, that Uchiha Madara is alive. Oh my god, how come the other half of the chakra sealed in the fourth Hokage's stomach came out? Oh my god, my Nine-Tails chakra was just distributed to the ninjas. The Nine-Tails' chest was heaving and he was very angry. The picture was played quickly, and when the Nine-Tails saw itself being pulled out of Naruto's body, its heart was clenched, which meant that this kid was going to die. Then, it saw that it and the other eight-tailed beasts were sealed in the outer path demon statue, and then, the Six Paths Old Man came out. When seeing the picture of the Six Paths Old Man, the Nine-Tails seemed to see that in the long river of time, the Six Paths Old Man was also looking back at itself with a smile on his face. Old man. Quote. The Nine-Tails couldn't help but shout in his heart, wanting to catch and say hello, but unfortunately time didn't stop, and the scene changed again. Naruto rescued him, and the other tailed beasts were praising their Jinchuriki, doing a good job. Seeing this, the Nine-Tails suddenly felt warm in his heart, as if he had found his home. Just thinking about it, the scene came to the time when the tailed beasts were discussing where to go, and Six Paths asked where he was going. The Nine-Tails in the picture was very embarrassed and subconsciously looked at Naruto. In reality, the Nine-Tails was also watching the scene at this moment. You stand on the bridge to enjoy the scenery, and the people who enjoy the scenery also stand on the bridge to enjoy you. The Nine-Tailed Fox looked at himself in the picture. In fact, he had already guessed what he might say, but he still felt a little shy. As a result, it really saw the picture that made its aunt laugh. It stayed in Naruto's body, under the pretext of facilitating the contact between the big-tailed beasts, but in fact, it was just to avoid being separated from Naruto. In reality, the Nine-Tailed Fox saw this and shouted, Yamate. Unfortunately, the picture turned again. After many years of peace in the ninja world, Naruto, the little devil, finally became the Hokage that he had been shouting when he was a child, and he was very excited. Then, he married Hinata. Then, it saw Naruto use multiple shadow clones, which made Hinata gasp for breath. Hinata refused to admit defeat and used Kaden. The nine-tailed fox had a question mark on his face. As a tailed beast, he didn't understand why he hit so hard when they were so close. Hinata kept screaming because of Naruto's attack. Outside, Naruto felt something was wrong and fast-forwarded. So the next second, the nine-tailed fox, who was about to complain, saw a little girl with white eyes, a finger came over, and directly knocked himself and Naruto unconscious. Oh my god, the nine-tailed fox felt painful even when he was watching from outside. The scene turned again, and it came to Naruto and the nine-tailed fox fighting against the Otsutsuki. The nine-tailed fox sacrificed himself for Naruto and turned on the heavy particle mode. Then, there was nothing. With a whoosh, the samsara eyes in the nine-tailed fox disappeared, and it gasped and digested this information. Naruto floated quietly in front of it, looked at it and said, "How?" The nine-tailed fox looked up at Naruto and said in confusion, "Will I die for you?" Naruto nodded seriously. "Will I still be friends with you and work together as one?" Naruto nodded again. The nine-tailed fox roared, "Impossible, absolutely impossible." Then he stepped back, away from Naruto, and roared, "This is definitely an illusion." Naruto followed up, "You actually believed it yourself, why do you still want to deceive yourself? Besides, whether it is an illusion or not, you can actually feel it yourself. The samsara eye can control the tailed beasts, but it cannot control the minds of the tailed beasts. When I went back in time, did you feel that you were controlled?" The nine-tailed fox trembled all over and stopped retreating. Seeing this, Naruto continued, "Old buddy, let's join forces again. We lost in the last life, so we can't lose again in this life, otherwise all the efforts of the old man Ludao will be in vain." Hearing Naruto talking about Ludao, thinking about the look in the old man Ludao's eyes just now, Juwei sighed and said, "Okay." Naruto smiled and jumped directly onto Juwei and said, "Oh, old buddy, you are so stubborn." Juwei was furious and said, "What are you doing? I just agreed, why are you getting so intimate?" Naruto waved his hand and smiled, "Okay, I'll give you some suitable space." Then, Naruto floated down from Juwei, and then opened his shirt with his left hand. The Bagua seal key in his right hand emerged and pressed it directly on his stomach. Turning it to the bottom, the door lock was unlocked directly with a click, and then Naruto pushed the door open directly. Kyuubi stood up and said, "What are you doing? Can you leave me some distance? Close the door, close the door." Naruto was a little confused and said, "You have always disliked this sealed door, right?" Kyuubi stiffened his neck and said, "I have changed my hobby, okay. I like it now." Kyuubi came over and pulled up the big iron door, and said to Naruto, "Go, go, go, hurry out. I can pay so much chakra, hurry up." Naruto let out a chuckle and let Kyuubi pull the door. He didn't close it himself, but he didn't lock it anymore. The seal has been opened, and the direct chakra communication between him and Kyuubi is completely unimpeded. Naruto looked back at Kyuubi, shook his head with a little laugh, and then left the sealed place. In the bedroom, Naruto woke up, stretched, and went directly to Orochimaru's laboratory. "Uncle Snake, busy." Orochimaru looked at Naruto's firm steps and asked, "What do you mean, what are you going to do?" Naruto's mouth curled up slightly, and he looked at Orochimaru and said, "How do you know what I'm going to do when I come to you?" Orochimaru smiled and said, "Whenever you make up your mind, your footsteps will be very steady." Sound. Naruto gave Orochimaru a thumbs up and said, "Uncle Snake is very observant. This is the case. I came here to discuss with Uncle Snake. Can I take Itachi out from Kabuto and steal him?" Orochimaru smiled and said, "Are you ready to take Itachi?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yeah, this idea is very big." Orochimaru pondered for a while and said, "If Kabuto hides it specially, I may not be able to find it, because after all, the impure world reincarnation has been revealed." Naruto said again, "What about robbing it by force?" Orochimaru smiled, "If you can rob it by force, you won't come to me." Quote. Naruto smiled awkwardly, "Yes. He was just letting Kabuto exist, otherwise with Naruto's current strength, Kabuto would have been destroyed directly, but Naruto and Kabuto also had a friendship, and Kabuto was part of Naruto's plan. Then he could only mobilize the 5 major coalition forces to approach and let Kabuto release those undead spirits in order to fight. Thinking of this, Naruto looked at Orochimaru and said, "Uncle Snake, I want to consult you about something. Can you tell me about your reincarnation?" Orochimaru narrowed his eyes and looked at Naruto, with a hint of evil at the corner of his mouth, and said, "Little boy, you are not obedient." Naruto chuckled and said, "Isn't this my desire for the truth?" Orochimaru sighed and said, "Although the non-corpse reincarnation is good, it has 2 major disadvantages. First, using the non-corpse reincarnation, you need to replace a fresh body every few years, so you can also find that I have been looking for a suitable parasite, like Itachi, Sasuke, who used to be the object of my search. Second, the CD time of the non-corpse reincarnation is too long. After using it once, it takes several years before it can be used. This is why I often use the flow substitution technique in the crisis of battle." After listening to it, Naruto nodded. This non-corpse reincarnation really has some tricks. Orochimaru looked at Naruto and smiled playfully. "What do you mean, you have an idea?" Naruto smiled and said, "Just asking, after all, more preparation means more ways." Just as he was about to leave, Naruto felt the flying thunder god mark urging frantically, and Naruto's mind was slightly moved and said, "Excuse me, Uncle Orochimaru." Uncle Orochimaru nodded, and then Naruto flying thunder god left. In Konoha, Naruto landed on the roof of Hinata Hyuga's house, wondering why Hinata would summon him here. In confusion, Naruto directly used the transformation technique to become a member of the Hyuga family, then jumped down, and then walked into the hall. "Hinata, you have to consider the Hyuga family. After all, Hiashi is also very helpless." In the hall, Hiashi Hyuga was silent on the side. Hinata said coldly, "I tell you, this is impossible. In this life, I will not marry anyone except Naruto. You." Beside him, the elders of the Hyuga clan were very angry, because Naruto was currently a traitor, and he also kidnapped the 8 tails of Kumogakure, which made Lord Raikage very angry. The Raikage personally persuaded the daimyo of Kumogakure to issue a diplomatic order to Konoha. Either let Naruto send the 8 tails back, or marry him, otherwise, he would never agree to form a ninja coalition again, and even go to war with Konoha. Although Konoha has already seriously negotiated, and even specifically stated that dealing with the Akatsuki organization is the real important thing at the moment, I hope Lord Raikage will think twice before acting. But for his brother, Raikage has almost gone crazy, that is, he wants the 8 tails back, otherwise he will go to war. Or, marry him, marry the princess of the Hyuga clan. Naruto watched from the side, frowning slightly. Is this old Raikage out of his mind? Didn't my parting gift shock him? The elder of the Hyuga clan continued, "Hinata, I watched you grow up, and I also hope that you don't marry far away, but there is no way. The current Konoha is not the Konoha of the past. We just experienced a war. The Akatsuki organization has always been eyeing us covetously. Although we have been defeated, we may still make a comeback. It is said that we will establish an alliance with the Ninja Alliance army, but who can guarantee that they will not go back on their words? If Akatsuki and the Cloud Village join forces, then Konoha will be reduced to ashes, and countless people will lose their homes." Hinata wiped her tears and said, "No, at that time, Naruto will take action. No one in this world can beat my Naruto. This situation will never happen." The elder sighed and said, "If Naruto had stayed in the village, I would have nothing to say, but now he is a traitor, and we don't know what he is up to. Can we trust such a ninja?" Quote. Hinata Neji disagreed. "I think Naruto has not changed. He is still the Naruto who protects Konoha. After all, this time Akatsuki attacked Konoha to force Naruto to surrender by destroying Konoha. Just imagine, if Naruto really didn't care about Konoha, why would he take action and create an enemy like Akatsuki for himself? Also, if Akatsuki could catch Naruto, why would he force Naruto to agree to do something by destroying Konoha? This shows that Akatsuki can't beat Naruto either." Quote. Hinata was very happy to see her brother speak for her. The elder glanced at Neji and frowned. The main family is talking, and the branch family should not interrupt. Hinata Neji frowned and became angry when he heard the branch family's words. Hyuga Hiyashi coughed and said, "Okay, I think we should ask the Hokage for advice on this matter. Let's not make a decision yet." The elder frowned and said, "But..." Hyuga Hinata looked outside and felt anxious. "Why haven't you come yet?" Naruto snorted coldly, then walked out slowly and said, "As the largest clan in Konoha, how can the Hyuga clan be so cowardly now? They need women to maintain peace. How dare you, a member of the clan, say that? This is against the clan rules. You are so cruel." Naruto snorted coldly, no longer pretending, and directly unsealed. Naruto, wearing a coat of the 10 organization, appeared in the meeting hall of the Hyuga clan. Suddenly, everyone in the room was surprised. "This is Naruto. What is that? Samsara I. This is Naruto who helped us repel the enemy. It's him, it's Naruto, but it's not Golden. Fool." At that time, Naruto was in Nine Tails mode, and now he is not. Naruto looked around, and there were many people who had fought together when Naruto opened the Nine Tails mode clone. It was Naruto's guidance to deal with White Zetsu that made them realize that the White Zetsu pretender could not be seen by the Byakugan. Naruto nodded, and they responded in kind. "Naruto-kun." Hinata threw herself into Naruto's arms. Naruto held her, smelled her hair, and comforted her. "I'm here, it's okay." Hyuga Neji frowned, coughed a few times and came over and said, "Naruto." Naruto laughed and greeted Neji. "Brother-in-law, you spoke well." Ningji was embarrassed by Naruto's brother-in-law, and blushed and said, "Stupid, baka. I haven't agreed to hand my sister over to you yet, and you're calling me so happily." Naruto waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, it's a matter of time." Hinata felt warm inside. After Naruto came, she was no longer panicked, because Naruto was her heaven now. The elder of the clan hit the ground hard with his cane and shouted angrily, "Where did the yellow-haired man come from? How dare you come to the Hyuga clan to act wild?" Naruto frowned and swept his reincarnation eyes over. In an instant, everyone at the scene felt a strong murderous aura. The Hyuga clan ninja, who had seen how powerful Naruto was, immediately prepared to run away, and after he finished, he did not forget to say to the people around him, "I was not here today." Enough. In the hall, Hyuga Hiyashi roared and stood up. There was no way. If he didn't stand up as the head of the family, these elders might be killed by Naruto on the spot. Looking at Hinata nestled in Naruto's arms, Hyuga Hiyashi said coldly, "Hinata, come here." Under the majesty of her father, Hinata left Naruto's arms and looked at Naruto. Naruto didn't move his eyes at all. He directly grabbed Hinata's hand and pulled Hinata into his arms again. Hyuga Hiyashi narrowed his eyes slightly, which was equivalent to swearing sovereignty to his future father-in-law. Naruto looked at Hyuga Hiyashi, thinking about the time he had spent with his father-in-law in his previous life, which was not bad. So he said calmly, "Uncle, the Hyuga clan is a big clan after all. You can't always be so humble. Isn't the pain that Kumogakure gave you last time heavy enough?" Hyuga Hiyashi narrowed his eyes slightly, and he remembered something very unpleasant. Back then, the Kumogakure invaded the Hyuga mansion and kidnapped the young Hinata. After Hiyashi found out about this, he killed the Kumogakure and saved Hinata, but was also asked by the Lightning Country to hand over the murderer's head. At that time, Konoha had just experienced the Third Ninja World War, and its strength was even weaker than it is now. Therefore, the Hyuga clan had no choice but to agree. Therefore, the younger brother of the branch family, Hyuga Hiyashi, became a scapegoat and helped Hyuga Hiyashi replace him. For this, Hyuga Hiyashi felt deeply guilty. Neji was also in a bad mood, because he knew what Naruto was talking about, so he was firmly against his sister marrying him, and he didn't want the tragedy to happen again. The elders also knew what Naruto was talking about, and it was obvious that they had exposed the scars. They couldn't stand it and said, "Naruto, let go of your hands. This is the land of the Hyuga clan. It's not your turn to run wild." Naruto frowned slightly and sighed, "It's really annoying." Then, he gently swung his palm, and an invisible force rose instantly. With a chirp, a repulsive force of the heavenly way rose up, and several elders were directly blown away. With a few bangs, they hit the wall directly. Suddenly, blood flowed from the corners of the mouths of several elders, and they shouted. Hinata was shocked and trembled all over. Although he wanted Naruto to stand up for him, those elders had also watched him grow up. If she was killed by Naruto because of her, she would also feel very guilty. Naruto saw Hinata's worry and said, "Don't worry, I controlled my strength and didn't use my full strength, so you won't die." Hinata felt relieved after hearing this. Hyuga Hiashi was no longer calm and scolded, "How dare you, Naruto? How dare you act wildly in the Hyuga clan?" Beating the elders was equivalent to beating the face of the Hyuga clan. There was no other way, Hyuga Hiashi had to take action. At the critical moment, Ninki stood up and said, "Wait, head of the family." Hiashi saw that it was Ninki who stood up, stopped his attack, and said, "Ninki, do you also want to help Naruto, an outsider?" Ninki shook his head and said, "Head of the family, I want to ask you a question. Are you willing to marry Hinata to calm the anger of the Lightning Country?" Seeing Ninki asking this question, Hiashi looked at his precious daughter Hinata and frowned, "Of course not. Not only do I feel reluctant, but I wish I could give the Cloud Country too." Speaking of this, Hiashi was so angry that he smashed the table next to him with a slap. The members of the Hyuga clan present all sighed that the head of the family's Bagua palm was really amazing. Ninki said expressionlessly, "Then, since the head of the family doesn't want to, now that Naruto is here, what do we have to fear?" Hyuga Hiashi frowned and said, "Ninki, what do you mean? Don't you know that Naruto is now?" As he said that, Hyuga Hiashi looked at Naruto with a meaningful look in his eyes. Ninki nodded, turned around and looked at Naruto and said, "Indeed, Naruto's position is unclear now, but as far as I know, the Hokage has not issued any official statement saying that Naruto is a traitor, right? Nor has he sent out a pursuit ninja to chase Naruto, right? On the contrary, Naruto took the initiative to come to help Konoha in the battle just now, and cooperated with the ninjas in the village to fight against foreign enemies together. Regarding this, the ninjas of the Hyuga clan also have the same understanding." Beside him, the Hyuga clan ninjas who fought with Naruto nodded one after another. Ninki continued, "It can be seen that Naruto is still a ninja of Konoha, so there is no position relationship. Moreover, my sister really likes Naruto, and Naruto also likes Hinata. They are a match made in heaven. More importantly, let alone everyone present, who is Naruto's opponent in the entire Konoha and the entire ninja world. The mere Cloud Ninja, I guess, is no problem for Naruto." After saying that, Ninki looked at Naruto. Naruto gave Ninki a big compliment. "Not bad. My brother-in-law's speech really touched my heart." Naruto patted Neji on the shoulder, looked at Hyuga Hiashi and said, "Uncle, don't worry. There is no need to worry about Kumogakure, because I will ask them to apologize soon. In addition, Neji is right. In the current ninja world, to be honest, even if the 5 Kage come together, I can still handle it. Even if I am unhappy, a tailed beast ball or Shinra Tensei will destroy his entire village. So, you should be glad that Hinata took the initiative to find me. If I find out that Hinata has married him, I tell you all, the Hyuga clan, I will directly remove him from Konoha." As he said this, Naruto's power of heaven was released, and his whole body burst out with a repulsive pressure, sweeping the whole audience. What a pressure! This chakra is too strong. The members of the Hyuga clan present bowed to resist and exclaimed. As an elite among the Jonin, Hyuga Hiashi had to bow his head in the face of Naruto's pressure. It can be imagined how terrible Naruto's strength is. As for the elders of the Hyuga clan, they just pretended to be dead and didn't dare to wake up at all. Ninki looked at Naruto, who used to be the last one, and now has become so powerful. In his heart, he even looked forward to what Naruto said to him in the examination room of the Chunin exam, "Wait until I become the Hokage, and then I will change the fate of your Hyuga clan." Ninki smiled on his face. It seems that the day when Naruto changes the Hyuga clan is not far away. Naruto let go of Hinata, looked at her and said, "Don't worry at home, I'll go to the land of lightning and come back soon." Hinata nodded and said worriedly, "Then you should be careful." Naruto scratched Hinata's nose and said, "Didn't you hear what brother Ninki said? Who can beat me now?" Hinata was shy on her face, and she was sweet with Naruto in front of so many clansmen. Neji turned his back. Even though Naruto had become so strong, he still couldn't accept seeing him nuzzling his sister. After comforting Hinata and instructing Neji, Naruto took off from the spot and headed for the Cloud Kingdom. After taking off, Naruto quickly looked for the mark he had marked before, and then flew to the border of the Iron Kingdom with the Thunder God, and then used the animal path to summon the big bird and headed straight for the Thunder Kingdom. There was no way, the Raikage guy, I couldn't do it without personally visiting him to greet him. In the Thunder Kingdom, the Raikage sat in his office, and down the hall were his secretary Mabui, his right-hand men Darui and Shi, as well as Samui, Karui, and Omoi. The Raikage leaned back on his chair and asked, Mabui, how is our army prepared? Mabui held the report in his hand and said, in addition to the ninjas who protect the daimyo, there are also ninjas who stay in the village. All the ninjas who are suitable for the battlefield have been assembled. The Raikage hummed, expressing satisfaction, and then looked at Darui and said, Lazy, how is the integration of the troops? Darui responded, Boss, the medical troops, sensory troops, combat troops, and logistics escort troops have all been divided, and I have arranged their respective captains. The Raikage nodded, and he was relieved that Darui was doing things. Then, the Raikage looked at Shi and said, Shi, you should lead the sensing unit, so that we can ensure the safety of our Kumogakure. Shi, yes, Lord Raikage. Karui stepped forward and said, Lord Raikage, what should I do with my master? Omoi also worried, yes, although he didn't fall into the Akatsuki organization, but that Naruto doesn't look like a pushover now. What if he falls for our master's 8 tails? Samui pressed his shoulders, which were a little sore because he stood too heavy. She frowned and said, I think Lord Kurabi must have been bewitched, otherwise he would never be willing to follow Naruto. The Raikage snorted and said, he just wanted to go out and play, and didn't want to go back to the village. Therefore, Naruto, that fool, used some means to deceive my brother, a simple fool, away. As he said that, the Raikage was immediately furious. Darui said, then, shall we continue to put pressure on Konoha? Raikage nodded and said, yes, the monk can run away but the temple cannot. If I can't find Naruto, I can't find his village. By the way, Mabui, has there been any response to the diplomatic book we sent to Konoha? Mabui, no response yet. She was a little worried, stepped forward and said, Lord Raikage, according to the intelligence report, a few days ago, the masked man Uchiha Madara led tens of thousands of white Zetsu to attack Konoha, but was repelled by Naruto and Konoha. Raikage frowned slightly. Karui was surprised and asked, is this Naruto so powerful? Omoi, then, can we beat him? Karui punched Omoi on the head and said, you fool, what are you talking about? No matter how powerful Naruto is, he is not as powerful as our Raikage. Darui watched from the side and thought to himself, maybe my boss can't beat Naruto. She continued, moreover, those white Zetsu will absorb the chakra of the ninjas and change. Ordinary perception ninjas have no way to detect it. At the beginning, Konoha was very passive because there were pretenders everywhere among the ninjas. It was not until Naruto joined the battlefield that it changed. Darui asked, can Naruto find these pretenders? She nodded and said, yes, Naruto can find those disguised white Zetsu in the Nine Tails chakra mode, and Naruto split a large number of clones and formed teams with Konoha's ninjas one after another, and quickly eliminated those white Zetsu. Is it so powerful? Karui exclaimed again, and Omoi sighed even more. She looked at Lord Raikage and said, moreover, Lord Raikage, we can see from this war that Naruto really cares about Konoha. No matter why he left Konoha, no matter why he wanted to kill Danzo, as long as Konoha is in trouble, Naruto will take action. So, we threatened Konoha and forced Naruto to agree to our conditions. This idea is correct, but there is one thing in our way of threatening that we may have overlooked. Raikage frowned and said, what? She said with embarrassment, I just learned recently that the Hyuga clan we threatened may not agree to our conditions as before, because the eldest lady of the Hyuga clan, Hinata, is Naruto's favorite person. Darui heard she say this. After hearing this, he sighed, it's over. Raikage also gritted his teeth and was worried. She continued, I'm worried that Konoha might be respectful to us. After all, our strength is here, and the ninja coalition also needs our efforts to form it, but Naruto might not. If things go wrong, he might come directly to the Cloud Country to cause trouble. What's more, Lord Killer Bee is not on our side. Once a conflict breaks out. Quote, Karui said angrily, what are you afraid of? Don't we still have Lord Raikage here, and there are so many senior ninjas in Cloud Village? Can Naruto beat us? After Karui finished speaking, Darui, she, and Raikage were all silent, because he had seen Naruto's parting gift, and that gift was too terrible. She looked at Karui and said, you haven't seen Naruto's strength, so you may not understand. Indeed, our Kumogakure can fight Naruto, but our Kumogakure village can't withstand Naruto's attack. Darui sighed, even the absolute defense of Master Kazekage can't be fully protected against such an attack. It is conceivable that once it is used in the village, the efforts of the entire Kumogakure for so many years will be in vain. After listening, the Raikage stood up angrily and punched the table in front of him, saying, I will never allow Naruto to destroy my village. With a bang, the granite marble table was directly broken. Mabui covered her forehead and sighed. She couldn't remember which table in the office had been broken. While they were discussing, suddenly, the door of the Raikage's office was pushed open, and a ninja ran over in a hurry and said, Lord Raikage, it's bad, someone invaded the village. The Raikage roared angrily, what? She immediately sensed it, connected to the village's defense system, and through the Kumogakure barrier, he clearly sensed that someone had swaggered into the village directly, ignoring the lightning power that kept shooting down from the sky after entering the village. After carefully sensing it, it seemed that there was an invisible round shield around that person, wrapping him up and resisting the attack of the defense system. What is this? She was surprised, and the Raikage asked, what's wrong, she? She opened his eyes and said, the person we are talking about may be here. Hearing this, the whole place was shocked. High in the sky, Naruto was suspended in the air of Kumogakure. In the Raikage's office, when Raikage heard she say that Naruto might come, he was angry and frightened. He didn't expect that this guy would really come. Raikage turned over, jumped over the sofa behind him, and with a bang, broke the glass window and jumped out directly. She followed closely behind him. Darui thought about it and decided not to take the stairs this time. He was just going to be wild once, so he would just go here. Omoi, Darui, and Samui followed closely behind. Mabui looked at the broken glass, shook his head, and then turned his head to the ninja reporting behind him and said, ask the logistics department to send another set of marble tables and outer window glass. With a few whooshes, Raikage jumped out of the window, and in a few flashes, he came directly to the center of the village. He saw Naruto standing in the air at a glance, and his heart stopped for a moment. She followed and saw Naruto's posture. He was very scared and said, Lord Raikage, what is that move? Darui immediately drew out his sword and said with wide eyes, could it be that Naruto is going to perform that technique? Touchai led the ninjas here a long time ago and made a wave of attack attempts, but the other party did not respond and avoided fighting instead. Looking at Naruto, who was constantly attacked by lightning in the sky, he turned around and reported to the Raikage, Raikage, the person coming is Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha. So far, the other party has not launched any attack on our village. Naruto smiled slightly, looked at Tutai and said, Uncle Tutai, no need to introduce, Raikage is very familiar with me. Omoi drew out his machete and shouted at Naruto, Naruto, you guy, give my master back to me. Darui hissed and said, keep a low profile, didn't she say that Naruto is very powerful? Omoi punched and yelled, you coward, get out of my way. Samui frowned and said, don't make a fuss, follow behind Raikage, wait for orders, and prepare for battle. Raikage looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, where is my brother? He's with me, helping me do things together, what's wrong? Naruto said expressionlessly. Raikage gnashed his teeth and said, I have only one request, return my brother to me, so that Kumogakure and Konoha can continue to cooperate, and I will not pursue any responsibility, including your traitorous ninja Sasuke. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, your brother followed me, that was his choice, and it was also a choice made for the future of Kumogakure and you. You can't see the future, and I won't blame you for this. But your diplomatic book under Konoha has violated my reverse scale. As he said this, Naruto's majesty of heaven burst out from his body. In an instant, even the lightning power that kept striking down was directly bounced away. The Kumogakure ninjas present felt the chakra power from Naruto's body for the first time. What a powerful chakra! This pressure is even more terrifying than when Lord Killer Bee exploded. This is the power of Konoha's Jinchuriki. No, this is the power of the Samsara Eye. He hasn't used the power of the Nine Tails yet. What? As the first military power in the ninja world after the Third World War, Kumogakure has always been the overlord of the ninja world. From the many Jonin and Chunin present today, it can be seen that the backbone of the village is very strong. This is why Konoha compromised in the past and sacrificed Hyuga Hazashi of the Hyuga clan for this. But today, the people of Kumogakure felt a kind of oppression for the first time, from the oppression of strength, which was too shocking. Dodai felt Naruto's oppression and was shocked in his heart. He had heard of this Naruto a long time ago, but he didn't expect that he could be so strong. I don't know. As he said, Dodai looked at the village's biggest support, the Raikage. Without Killer Bee, the highest combat power in the village is now only the Raikage. She had already told Raikage Eye, who also knew the purpose of Naruto's coming here, so Raikage Eye shouted, "You were the first to offend me and took my brother away, so I took corresponding diplomatic measures. I know that you, Naruto, are powerful and can destroy my village in an instant, but I tell you, if you dare to invade the Cloud Village today, I will take people to Konoha tomorrow and make you have no home." Hearing the domineering declaration of the Raikage instantly made the people of Kumogakure full of blood, and the momentum that was frightened by Naruto's pressure instantly rose again. "We will protect the village to the death. We will pursue the Raikage-sama to the death. Long live the Raikage-sama. Those who offend my village will be punished no matter how far away they are." The Raikage saw that the ninjas in the village were full of blood, and instantly the reckless fighting consciousness came up again, glaring at Naruto. Naruto smiled disdainfully and said lightly, "Raikage Eye, you have always been so brave." Raikage Eye saw Naruto's disdainful eyes, and in an instant, he seemed to see that the fourth generation also looked at him so calmly. "They are all annoying yellow-haired. Come down and fight if you have the guts. Don't use the Samsara Eye, Naruto, relying on the eyes of the immortal. What are you so proud of? If you can really defeat me, I will admit defeat to you." Raikage Eye said angrily. Naruto said with a smile, "You like hand-to-hand combat, right? It's just right, I have the same idea. Let's see which one is stronger, the physical strength of the Nine Tails, or the physical activity of the thunder release breathing technique." As he spoke, Naruto slowly descended. Raikage Eye looked at Naruto and said, "Are you really going to fight me in hand-to-hand combat?" Naruto smiled and said, "You said, if you lose, you must admit defeat to me." Raikage laughed and patted his chest and said, "Okay. I, Raikage, swear, as long as you don't use the Samsara Eye and fight me, if I lose, no matter what you say, as long as it doesn't violate the interests of the village, I will agree to you." Naruto said seriously, "Is it a deal?" Raikage Eye, "I'll stick to it." Then the Raikage looked at Dodai and said, "Dodai, go and shut down the village's defenses. I want to have a decisive battle with Naruto." Dodai was surprised and said, "Lord Raikage, this is not a good idea. The number of enemies is unknown. What if someone comes in while we are fighting?" The Raikage shouted, "Just go if I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" After that, the Raikage looked at Naruto with resentment and said, "He doesn't need to be so fancy. If he uses the Samsara Eye, the current Cloud Village is already a ruin. No defense can stop it. Konoha is not strong, but it is full of perverts." Dodai looked at Naruto in shock. This guy is so powerful. He is only 16 years old. Even Lord Raikage is helpless with him. Chapter 91. After the Raikage's order was executed, the defense of Kumogakure was closed. The lightning above Naruto's head stopped striking down. Raikage said, "The defense is also closed for you, and you don't need to open the defense of your Samsara Eye, and you are not allowed to use other abilities of the Samsara Eye anymore." Naruto said, "No problem." As he said that, Naruto took off his coat, and then looked at the Raikage and said, "Tell me, how do you fight?" The Raikage looked at Naruto and said, "Come with me, there is a training platform outside the village, where we can fight conveniently." As he said that, the Raikage rushed in front. Naruto did not use the Samsara Eye, and ran behind the Raikage. Raikage Eye looked at Naruto and said, "Boy, when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, you are really the first one. Even the tiger-like Sasuke in your village dared to fight me only when he was driving Susanoo Samsara. Otherwise, I would send him to the sky with a thunder bomb." Naruto said, "Oh, and then remembered what the Raikage said in his previous life when he intercepted him, and said, "Isn't there another guy called Yellow Flash who fought with you?" As if his scars were exposed, the Raikage said awkwardly, "The fourth Hokage is just fast. I can't catch him. Otherwise, he would definitely not be my opponent in a head-on fight." Naruto pretended to be surprised and said, "Lord Raikage, isn't your speed what you are always proud of?" Raikage I said angrily, "Can you chat, kid? If not, shut up." As he said that, because of anger, the Raikage I activated his cells directly, ran forward quickly, and directly left Naruto behind by several big bodies. Naruto smiled slightly, "You are angry and want to compete with me in speed, right? Kurabuta, stop sleeping, get to work." Naruto shouted in his heart, and in an instant, the Nine Tails turned into chakra and possessed him. In an instant, the Nine Tails chakra coat, Golden Ming mode, rushed forward. She and Darui and others who followed behind were all stunned. Darui, the boss has accelerated. I guess he is competing with Naruto in speed and giving him a warning. Haha, I don't know what Naruto is thinking. Fighting with the boss, the boss's physical fitness, in the ninja world, no one dares to say second. Just this speed, what is that? She widened his eyes, and Dodai said in shock, "This is simply Konoha's Yellow Flash." Soon, the Raikage came to the training ground. When he landed, he smiled slightly and looked back confidently. As a result, he saw a yellow flash falling more than 10 meters in front of him. "Lord Raikage, the place you are talking about is here." It turned out that the place where Raikage I brought Naruto was the place where Killer Bee had practiced before, Yunlei Gorge. Raikage I immediately lost all his pride and looked at the guy in front of him with gritted teeth. He was so annoying. Someone else could catch up with the speed he was so proud of. Thinking about Naruto's possible moves, Raikage I looked at Naruto and said, "By the way, I forgot to add one more thing. You guys are not allowed to use Flying Thunder God." Naruto stretched his muscles and threw his coat aside and said, "Okay, anyway, I don't plan to use Flying Thunder God. I just want to use you as an experiment to see my current physical strength." How shameless. Raikage's cells activated to the strongest level, and he tore off his shirt, revealing his chest muscles, and his hair stood up. Naruto said helplessly, Hey, we were talking fine, why are you taking off your clothes all of a sudden?" Raikage I stopped talking and stepped out directly. The stones on the spot shattered and he punched. Bang, bang, bang. The friction between the body flying in at high speed and the air produced a huge air cannon sound. Even behind the whole body of the Raikage, a layer of air cloud rose up. It can be imagined how fast the Raikage was and how strong his body was at high speed. Naruto was ready and didn't dodge at all. He opened his eyes angrily and orange eye shadow appeared. Sage mode. In the sealed place, the nine-tailed fox snorted coldly and was very unhappy. Under the sage mode, he has extraordinary sensitivity and passivity to every move of the enemy. Facing the heavy punch of the Raikage, Naruto aimed, then his right hand turned into the nine-tailed fox chakra, directly enlarged, and then raised it to take it. With a loud bang, the Raikage's heavy fist hit Naruto's nine tails transformed palm, and the collision created a powerful air wave that swept around, causing Shi, Darui, Dodai and others who had just arrived here to bow their heads. What a confrontation! That guy Naruto actually withstood the Raikage-sama's punch. Darui was very excited when he watched the battle in the field, because he was also the kind of person who tended to practice physical strength. For this kind of pure physical bombardment, watching it was particularly exciting. Naruto gritted his teeth and said, "It's so powerful." Lei Ying snorted coldly and said, "This is the beginning, boy." With that said, Darui jumped up and flew into the air. Darui smiled and said, "The boss is going to use heavy violent flow." Sure enough, Raikage took advantage of the high altitude of his leap, directly raised his left foot, accumulated strength, and then kicked it down hard. Yi Lei Shen Wrath Thunder Axe. A heavy kick with heavy violent force was kicked down directly. Although the Raikage is very fast, Naruto in Nine Tails mode can even surpass the Flying Thunder God within a certain distance, let alone avoid the Raikage's attack speed. However, Naruto didn't even try to hide, he was very excited and shouted, "Well done." His hands directly transformed into nine tails, became larger, and then crossed over his head to block it. When Reikage saw Naruto like this, he obviously despised himself and shouted angrily, "Die to me." With a bang, a heavy kick hit Naruto's hands firmly. Naruto groaned, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His entire feet were directly sunk into the ground, and the ground under his feet was directly crushed. It was so dry that it fell apart over a large area. It's fun, it's fun. This fight is so exciting. Naruto roared angrily, opened his hands upward, and pushed the Reikage away. After that, after wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, you can see that Naruto's hands also have serious impact bruises. Omoi said in surprise, "This is not even death." Darui exclaimed, "Naruto is so awesome." Sammy also agreed. Being able to resist the Reikage-sama's two ultimate moves at such a close distance, your physical strength is comparable to Reikage-sama. Darui laughed on the side and said, "If we continue to be beaten like this, if Naruto really doesn't need the Rinnegan, he may die." Nozomi was always paying attention to the scene and found that Naruto was obviously injured after resisting. The blood at the corner of his mouth and the bruises on his arms were the best proof. Nozomi was happy because Lord Reikage's attack was effective, but soon, he couldn't laugh anymore. "That's right," she said in surprise. Darui asked, "What's wrong, did you find anything?" Nozomi sensed the scene and was shocked. Naruto is recovering quickly from the damage he suffered due to Reikage-sama's attack. "How is that possible?" everyone present almost said in unison. Nozomi expressed her seriousness, her eyes fixed on Naruto's arms, and the bruises were visibly removed. "This guy can actually heal himself quickly." Tudai was well informed and said calmly, "This may have something to do with the Nine Tails chakra. You know, Kurabi-sama healed very quickly after being injured." In the middle of the field, Naruto twisted his shoulders, looked at the Reikage in front of him, smiled evilly and said, "It's my turn to perform." The Reikage was secretly surprised. Naruto was much better than Sasuke. Thinking about the 5-Cage conference, when he fought Sasuke, basically after 2 big moves, Sasuke was already half dead. In the end, it was Gaara who saved Sasuke, so he didn't succeed. Looking at the Naruto in front of him, he was completely in a rhythm of carrying it hard. This guy really used himself as a whetstone. The Reikage was so angry that he was ready to fight. Naruto made a sound, and the Nine Tails chakra behind him transformed into 4 huge Nine Tails grabbers, rushing straight at the Reikage. Grab once, grab twice, the Reikage dodged back and forth, sneering, "Naruto brat, you want to catch me at this speed?" Naruto smiled slightly, grabbed the 2 huge nine-tailed claws and grabbed the ground fiercely, then pulled the whole person forward quickly. Naruto flew into the air, and the other 2 nine-tailed claws instantly made fists in the air, and then hit the Reikage in the air with lightning speed. With a bang, the Reikage was directly blown away like a badminton being dunked, and shot into the lake of Yunlei Gorge like a missile. With a plop, the lake surface splashed with huge waves because of the impact. She was shocked and said, "Lord Reikage was blown away." Darui frowned and said, "Not good." Naruto propped up with 4 claws, then jumped up suddenly, flew into the air, and then began to quickly seal, and suddenly, the buzzing sound of high-speed rotation resounded throughout the scene. Dodai looked at the technique that Naruto was condensing and asked in surprise, "Is that a technique similar to the tailed beast ball?" She was shocked and said, "No, it's the wind style that restrains the lightning style, the Rasenshuriken." Darui looked at the Reikage who had not yet appeared in the lake and shouted loudly, "Boss, be careful." Omoi was even ready to rush down, but was stopped by Karui. "What are you doing? You are looking for death. You can't just watch Reikage get beaten." Samui said, "Don't make trouble." Reikage said that this is a duel between him and Naruto, and no one else is allowed to interfere. Hearing this, Omoi angrily punched Karui. In the lake, the Reikage who was hammered into the bottom of the lake exploded directly. The huge lightning chakra was reckless, directly forcing back the water flow in the center of the lake, blasting out an open space. The Reikage roared madly, "Ah, Naruto, you little devil, I'm going to kill you." Just after shouting, he heard a buzzing sound of breaking through the air, quickly attacking. Wind escape, spiral shuriken. With a chirp, the spiral shuriken attacked directly, and it was connected to the hand of the Nine Tails chakra, rushing over. Dodai frowned a little. "This wind escape can't be removed." She reported based on the information he learned, it should be possible to remove it. I guess Naruto wants to be more secure. The Raikage looked at the fast-running wind escape, raised his eyebrows, and disdained it. When the wind escape chopped at him, he dodged directly, and then stepped up with force, directly covered with lightning escape armor, and jumped up to attack Naruto. Boy, with your speed, go home and practice for 2.5 years before fighting me. Naruto smiled and said calmly, I know that uncles called Raikage are very fast. As he said that, the Nine Tails chakra hand shrank directly, then turned around and reflected directly to the Raikage. Tatoi exclaimed. Naruto predicted the speed of Raikage-sama. He was ready to do this from the beginning. She gritted his teeth and said, what a cunning guy. Darui said seriously, this guy is really good at combat analysis. Raikage in midair felt that the wind escape spiral shuriken behind him was approaching. He did not panic, but directly used the thunder escape in midair, and his palms merged at high speed to fire an air cannon, relaying and moving sideways directly. Omoi was immediately overjoyed and said, great job, Raikage-sama. Ha ha ha, look at what Naruto will do. He will fight himself. Karui was also surprised and said, Raikage-sama has such a strong physical skill. He can attach lightning chakra to his palms and rub them with the air at high speed. When his palms are put together, a pressure air cannon is generated and moves horizontally. Darui smiled evilly and said, don't forget, the boss's physical skill is also one of the best in the ninja world. Raikage looked at Naruto with a faint smile, thinking, kid, now, let's see what you can do. I saw Naruto in the air had already made a seal, bang. With a sound, 2 shadow clones appeared in the air, and then pulled the nine-tailed giant hand behind Naruto and swung it forward. Then, Naruto, who was flying over, quickly caught the spiral shuriken that was spinning back with the nine-tailed chakra in his right hand, and then smiled evilly and said, at this distance, Lord Raikage, you can't run away. With a chirp, the wind escape spiral shuriken was completely accelerated by Naruto and thrown out directly. At a distance of 5 or 6 meters, the Raikage in the air had no time to make any lateral movement again, and was directly hit by the spiral shuriken, and then with a buzz, he was thrown into the lake again. Then, the wind escape spiral shuriken exploded directly, and a huge wind escape ball appeared at the scene, and suddenly the wind whistled, and countless wind forces were like countless machetes, cutting the scene, making chirping sounds, and the surroundings were all cracked land and splashing water. Darui saw that things were not going well, and he made a seal directly, Earth Escape, Earth Flow Shield. A wall of Earth Escape was propped up in front of everyone, and just as it rose, a large piece was cut off. Darui exclaimed, what a powerful wind escape power this is. She worriedly said, Lord Raikage. Tutai made a seal. Lavish escape, Humo wall. Tutai sprayed out a flexible protective film from his mouth, reinforcing Darui's Earth Escape wall. He looked at everyone and said, don't worry, Lord Raikage's body strength is not that fragile, at least he can withstand it. After the huge wind escape wave subsided, everyone poked their heads out. The lake in the field, gurgling waves surged, and then the Raikage emerged from the water in a panic, half squatting on the water, panting. Wind escape versus thunder escape, this is a problem of attribute confrontation. The physical fitness of the Raikage is strong. The powerful wind escape just now only left a dozen cuts on him. However, being beaten without temper is also very helpless, not to mention that it was such a proud Raikage. Naruto fell from midair and landed in front of the water more than 10 meters away from the Raikage. Looking at the Uncle Raikage, Naruto smiled and said, how is it, Raikage-sama? Raikage stood up and looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, you are really strong. To be praised by such a proud Raikage, this is really a result of being beaten. Naruto smiled and said, thank you for the compliment. Raikage snorted coldly and said, it's a pity that my brother is not here, otherwise, you can only rely on the powerful chakra of the Nine Tails. The Raikage knew that the amount of chakra required for such a powerful wind escape just now must be very large. After using it, it is impossible for Naruto to be like him now, without any problems. Moreover, as a combat type, the Raikage discovered that Naruto recovered very quickly after 2 big moves. How to fight this? Can resist, and have infinite mana. This consumption can also kill me. Seeing that he was going to lose if he continued like this, Raikage began to have evil thoughts. Hearing the complaints of Raikage, Naruto said helplessly, then tell me, how can I defeat you so that you will be convinced? Reikage heard that Naruto, the young man, was fooled. He snorted coldly. Unless you don't use the Nine Tails chakra, and fight me with your own skills, I will be convinced by you. Naruto snorted speechlessly, then waved his hand and said, okay, I will satisfy you. As he said that, Naruto withdrew the Nine Tails chakra mode. In the distance, Darui laughed and said, oh, the Nine Tails chakra is gone. She sensed the field and said, no, Naruto took the initiative to withdraw it. Dodai frowned slightly, what is going on? Here, the Reikage saw that Naruto had actually withdrawn the Nine Tails chakra mode, and he was immediately overwhelmed with excitement, but he did not show it, instead he acted very righteous. Naruto, I tell you, I did not win unfairly. The chakra power of the tailed beasts does not belong to humans. You used it, which is no different from cheating. Only between us, using pure ninjutsu that we have practiced ourselves, this is a real head-on confrontation, a real duel. In such a duel, the loser is convinced, and the winner is fair and square. After saying this, the Reikage still looked proud. Naruto nodded and said, yes, you were right. I promise you that I will not use the Nine Tails chakra, but you must also promise me one thing. Reikage smiled and said, you say it. Naruto pointed at him and said, if I can still defeat you without using the Samsara Eye or the Nine Tails chakra mode, you must remember your promise, you must agree to my request, and apologize to Konoha. Reikage waved his hand and said, Reikage, will do what I say. Similarly, if you lose, let me deal with you, how about it? Naruto smiled and said, no problem. Then, Naruto gestured, wait a minute, I'll call a notary. So, Naruto waved and shouted, Uncle Tutai, come here. Tutai heard that he was called over there, although he was very confused, but he still went over. Hearing what Naruto said, Dodai looked at Reikage-sama, only to see Reikage said in a very unhappy tone, Naruto, what do you mean by this? Am I the kind of person who breaks a contract? Naruto smiled helplessly and said, I'm sorry, Reikage-sama, there have been many tricks in Kumogakure over the past few years. As he spoke, Naruto took out 2 scrolls, wrote the contents of the agreement directly on them, and then attached his own chakra signature, and then handed them to Uncle Dodai and said, sorry for the trouble. Uncle Dodai took it, and then handed it to Reikage-sama, and said, Reikage-sama, will we? Reikage glared at Dodai, then took the scroll and directly attached his own chakra signature. In this way, the agreement took effect, one for each person. Dodai sighed, then took the scroll handed to him by the Reikage, then glanced at Naruto and then flashed away. Back to Darui, she asked, what's wrong? Look at what you are signing. Dodai handed it to him and said, look for yourself. She took it and read it quickly. After a few seconds, he was surprised and said, Naruto is crazy. Darui also took it and looked at it. He immediately shook his head and said, this is equivalent to cutting off your left and right hands and fighting with Lord Reikage. Omoi and Karui also came over. After a few seconds, Karui touched his chin and said, why do I feel that Lord Reikage is bullying me? Omoi punched Karui and said, Naruto deserves it. Who told him to cheat our master away? Dodai looked at the young man in the field. He was really curious about what Naruto was doing and why he dared to make such a bet. There was silence for a minute. Reikage had recovered and his chakra was condensed again. He looked at Naruto and said coldly, kid, I won't hold back in the next battle. Be prepared. Life or death is your choice. Even with the scroll just now, at least I can kill you. Tsunade won't be able to find me. Naruto didn't speak and still closed his eyes. Reikage snorted coldly, his lightning chakra burst out, his cells were fully activated, and his lightning armor was put on again. Then, Reikage stretched out his right arm and his chakra began to condense. She sensed the field, eating. That's what Reikage is going to use. Dodai was surprised and said, it's Hell Thrust 4-pointed hand. As the confidant of the third Reikage, Dodai saw at a glance the ninjutsu that Reikage was going to perform. Looking at Ai's outstretched finger, it was actually one. Hell Thrust, 1-pointed hand. It seems that Reikage has put a lot of effort in private. You know, Hell Thrust is a lightning ninjutsu developed by the third Reikage. The thrust is like an electric shock that can penetrate any defense. In addition, after the number of fingers used is reduced, this technique will be more evolved, because the contact area will become smaller when the number of fingers used is reduced, so the force can hit harder, producing amazing penetration, and therefore it is called the strongest spear. Of course, the difficulty of practicing will rise to a higher level with each reduction in the number of fingers. It can be seen that the fourth Raikage has worked hard to practice this technique of his father. In the field, Naruto opened his eyes, and the orange eye shadow appeared more intense. The accumulation of natural power has reached its peak. Looking at the move of the Raikage, Naruto laughed at himself and said, "It seems that accumulating so much chakra is a bit of a waste." Then, Naruto made a seal, and with a bang, a shadow clone appeared and began to roll balls. When Raikage heard Naruto say that accumulating so much chakra was a bit of a waste, he thought he was talking about him, and immediately said angrily, "Naruto, after being shocked by your little gift in the Iron Country, I returned to the village. Except for meetings, I have been training to practice this powerful ninjutsu. Today, I will let you see what it means to cut off everything." As he said, Raikage moved directly, and with a whoosh, he attacked quickly, raised his right arm, and stabbed with a finger, as if to break everything. Even the air was cut open, producing a buzzing sound. Naruto's Rasengan was ready, and the shadow clone withdrew, concentrating on watching the attacking Raikage. In the distance, Darui looked at Naruto and shook his head and said, "Hey, I hope Raikage-sama doesn't kill Naruto, otherwise it will be difficult to explain to Konoha." She sensed the scene and said puzzledly, "That's just an ordinary Rasengan. What is Naruto doing?" Dodai frowned slightly. He always felt that Naruto was not that simple, and he was always a little worried in his heart. He had been worried since he signed the contract, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. In the field, Raikage's Hell Spike was about to hit Naruto's face. At this time, Naruto moved. Under the frog group in Sage mode, Naruto in this state had a wide range of danger perception and fast speed. Facing the stab, he dodged it directly. Raikage was a little shocked. He didn't expect Naruto to have such a fast reaction speed without the Nine Tails mode. Just as he was about to turn around and attack again, Naruto had already started to counterattack. Aiming at the arm of the fourth Raikage, he fired a Rasengan. With a bang, he changed the direction of the thrust of the Raikage, and let the Raikage pierce through him, and his right arm went into his chest, and blood splattered everywhere. Outside the field, everyone was shocked and couldn't close their mouths. Especially Dodai. He seemed to have thought of something and recalled something. "I understand, the wound on the chest of the third Raikage, I finally know." The thunder release armor that the Raikage was most proud of was penetrated by the secret technique he practiced, the hell-piercing hand. He stared blankly at his chest where blood was gushing out, somewhat unbelievable. Naruto, this guy, actually used his own spear to attack his shield. Too vicious, this kid. She looked at the injured Raikage and shouted worriedly, "Lord Raikage." Then he jumped out instantly, and Darui followed closely. Tutai also came over, followed by Karui, Omoi, and Samui. She came to the Raikage and looked at the wound. It was too deep, and the penetration ability of the hell-piercing hand was too strong. The piercing power was too great. The internal organs were probably seriously damaged. In other words, if the Raikage dared to continue fighting at this time, he would definitely die. "Raikage, don't move, I'll treat you." As he said that, she immediately activated the medical ninjutsu, and the green chakra technique emerged, and he placed his hands on the wound of the Raikage. Darui drew out his sword, alerted Naruto, and shouted, "Where is the Raikage guard?" Karui, Omoi, and Samui lined up in front. In the distance, the Jonin guard formation summoned by Darui also entered the scene and waited. "Captain, we're here. Captain, let's fight. Swear to protect Lord Raikage." Naruto saw this, looked at Raikage and smiled, "How about it, Uncle Raikage?" Raikage gritted his teeth, feeling the condition of his body. He knew that even if he was stubborn and forced to fight, with Naruto's current strength, even without the Samsara Eye and Nine Tails chakra mode, he would definitely lose. The proud Raikage was very entangled, because he didn't want to face that result. Darui seemed to have noticed the boss's concerns, and drew his sword towards Naruto and said, "Boss, as the Raikage, as the dignity of Kumogakure, there are some things that you don't want to admit, speak up as soon as possible, we will support you." Hearing the captain's speech, the other Jonin guards also supported him. Reikage gritted his teeth and closed his eyes to think. Dodai looked at the scroll in his hand, hesitant to speak, not knowing what to say. Naruto's eyes fixed, and he said seriously, "Uncle Reikage, it seems that you are going to break the agreement." As he spoke, Naruto's power of heaven reappeared, and the Shinra Tensei turned into repulsive force, gushing out from his body, filling the entire scene, and directly forced the group of people who were on guard against Naruto back several steps away. This chakra, too strong. Hold on, everyone. Darui gritted his teeth. He was a person who had seen Naruto's strength and knew that if the Reikage broke the agreement, these people would not be enough for Naruto to kill. Naruto looked at the people at the scene in a cold tone and said indifferently, "To be honest, I am willing to make an agreement with you because I think highly of you. If you make me unhappy, I don't mind destroying your village." The Reikage heard Naruto's harsh words, opened his eyes instantly, and then suddenly pulled out the arm that was stabbed into his chest, and blood gushed out immediately. She was surprised and said, "Lord Reikage." Then he exclaimed, "Everyone from the medical team, come here." Reikage I endured the pain, pushed Zai's treatment away, came to Naruto and said, "Naruto, Reikage I, lost." As soon as the Reikage said this, the surrounding Kumogakure ninjas seemed to have lost some faith. How could it be? Lord Reikage admitted defeat. The invincible Lord Reikage actually lost to such a Konoha brat. The Kumogakure people present were talking about it, because Lord Reikage was their spiritual totem and the symbol of Kumogakure. For them, the loss of Reikage was the loss of Kumogakure. As ninjas, they couldn't accept it. I don't accept it. I want to fight Naruto. I want to fight too. For the dignity of the village, I want to fight. That's right. Let's fight together. Naruto looked at this group of ninjas and was very touched. After all, a united village is what Naruto has always advocated. Dodai saw that the Reikage had expressed his position, but these people were still applying to fight. Looking at Naruto's expression, he felt that he had to stand up. Otherwise, when Naruto exploded, there would be nothing to talk about. "Everyone, step back. What are you doing? Didn't you hear what Reikage said?" Looking at everyone facing his lecture, they all temporarily calmed down. After calming down, Tutai continued, "You think you are all very powerful, more powerful than Reikage-sama, and can beat Naruto." Looking at the silent Kumogakure who clenched their fists, Tutai sighed and said, "This is the duel agreed between Reikage-sama and Naruto. We Kumogakure never do things that take advantage of others. We must win openly and lose beautifully. Since Reikage-sama said that we lost, that is the responsibility. We can afford to lose today, and we can afford to win tomorrow. Real men, Kumogakure, you don't have this awareness." Hearing Tutai say this, everyone's thinking began to change immediately. Tutai-sama is right. In a duel, there are wins and losses. Losing today does not mean that we will not win back in the future. Yes, we Kumogakure can afford to lose. Reikage I gave Tutai a praise expression, which was obviously to help him save some face. She came over quickly and organized a medical team to treat Reikage together. He personally began to suture Reikage. Reikage I endured the pain and looked at Naruto and said, "Naruto, I promise you that as long as it does not harm the interests of the village, I can agree to your request, but I also have a request. I want to see my brother." Naruto nodded and said, "No problem." As he said that, he summoned with a seal. With a hum, Rain Hidden, Killer Bee, who was still teaching, suddenly felt that the flying thunder god mark on his body was a little hot, and then he disappeared instantly, leaving the students with a confused look. Seeing this, Nagato smiled and said, "What is Junior Brother doing with the plane again?" Cloud Hidden, Killer Bee appeared at the scene, looked around a little blankly and said, "It looks so familiar." Seeing their master appear, Omoi and Kalui rushed over at once. "Master, woohoo, you finally showed up. Ah, Master, we thought we would never see you again." Omoi and Kalui cried bitterly. Kurabi touched the two people's heads and laughed. Okay, I just went out to play for a while, why do you miss me so much?" The Samahata behind Kurabi purred a few times, expressing dissatisfaction. It felt as if someone was trying to steal its master from it. The Reikage looked at Kurabi and was immediately furious, roaring, "Idiot! You fool, come to me quickly." Kurabi trembled all over when he heard his elder brother's roar. There was nothing he could do. The fear from the heart was engraved in his muscle memory. The Raikage clenched his fist and gritted his teeth and said, I don't want to say it again, otherwise I will punish you with my iron claws. Kurabi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She hurriedly said with concern, Lord Raikage, calm down and don't be so nervous. The wound that was just sutured has broken open. After instructing the Raikage, he immediately scolded, Medical team, increase the chakra healing and release. Yes, yes. Kurabi heard the words and looked at Raikage Eye, a little surprised. He left behind Omoi and Karui who were relying on him, walked to the side of the Raikage, and asked with concern, Hey, brother, what's wrong with your injury? Who can break your lightning armor? Raikage Eye snorted coldly and said, It's not your good friend. Kurabi. Darui walked up and said, Lord Bai, it's the boss that Naruto hurt. Kurabi looked at Naruto in shock and exclaimed, Yo, Naruto-kun, I didn't expect you to be so powerful now. You can even break my brother's lightning armor. Awesome. While sighing, he didn't forget to rhyme. Darui. Raikage Eye frowned, covered his chest with one hand, and said uncomfortably, my heart hurts a little, you can treat it for me. Naruto smiled awkwardly and said, It's not me who is powerful, but your elder brother Raikage Eye. I just caught the weakness. Dodai looked at Naruto with great appreciation. He finally understood what happened to the wound on the chest of the third Raikage, and finally understood why the third generation was unwilling to reveal the details to them. According to rumors, the wound on the chest of the third generation was left when fighting with the Eight Tails. Many people speculated that it might be the Eight Tails. Now it seems that the third generation fought to the end and accidentally fell down. His own stab pierced his chest, so he was embarrassed to tell his subordinates. At such a young age, Naruto can use intelligence, analyze the opponent's data, and fight accordingly. He is really a genius. Dodai took a deep breath, and in a trance, he thought of another genius of Konoha, the former fourth generation. At first glance, this Naruto really has some shadow of the fourth generation. Seeing his elder brother's uncomfortable look, Killer Bee frowned slightly, and then blamed Naruto a little. Naruto, did you hit too hard? Look at how uncomfortable my elder brother is. For the sake of Killer Bee, Naruto said embarrassedly, there is no way. Your elder brother made a bet with me. If I don't beat him, he won't agree to my request. Kurabi was interested when he heard the bet. On this side, Dodai stepped forward, took out the scroll, and told Killer Bee about Naruto's duel with Raikage Eye just now. After listening, Killer Bee looked at Raikage Eye and said, Brother, you are not wrong for losing. Naruto's Samsara Eye and Nine Tails mode are useless. At this point, Killer Bee shook his head. Raikage Eye covered his chest again, and instantly felt that this brother should not stay for long. Then, Killer Bee looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, what are you going to ask my elder brother for? Naruto said without hesitation, I just formed a group of people, and the content taught by this group of people is definitely not enough, so I have long wanted to collect the training secrets of major ninja villages. Killer Bee heard it and said excitedly, I know where it is. We have a lot of secrets in the hidden Cloud Village. They were all looted before and hidden in an attic in the village. Naruto heard it and it was true. Because after the Third Ninja World War, Kumogakure was gathering strength everywhere. For example, the reason why Hyuga Hazashi died was that Kumogakure wanted to collect the Byakugan and took Hinata away. Then the Kumogakure ninja was killed, and the Raikage was so angry that he forced the murderer to hand over, which led to Hazashi's death. However, Kumogakure did not get the Byakugan. But during that period, Kumogakure collected a lot of secret techniques. Naruto looked at Killer Bee very happily and said, Do you know where it is? Killer Bee nodded repeatedly and said, I know, I used to go there often. Tell my eldest brother and I will take you there. Dodai was stunned and could not speak to himself for a long time. In a trance, he also covered his heart. Pain, too painful. Raikage Eye couldn't stand it anymore and said angrily, Bakailu, you fool, you actually helped people from other villages to consume the village's things. You are still my brother, still the Jinchuriki of Kumogakure, and still a ninja of Kumogakure. Kurabi heard his brother's golden 3 consecutive roars and questioning, and said nonchalantly, Anyway, the strong ones are all ninjas in the ninja world. It doesn't matter, in the future, we are all part of the fight together, there is no distinction between each other. Reikage was slightly stunned. How come his brother is talking about the future just like Naruto? Then, Reikage looked at Naruto and said, "Kid, what medicine did you give my brother? Or, what kind of illusion did you cast on my brother with the Samsara eye?" Naruto rolled his eyes at Reikage and said, "Uncle Reikage, don't you know that Jinchuriki is not affected by illusions? Besides, if the Samsara eye can control your brother, it is complete control and there will be no independent consciousness at all." After listening to Naruto's words, Dodai did not refute, because he also knew something about Jinchuriki. Kurabi explained, "Brother, I know you may not believe what I said to you, but Naruto did let me see the future, that future, it was too scary. I also had the opportunity to see it because Shalba was in my body. You don't have that chakra, so you can't see it. But if you are willing to believe it, I can also tell you everything." Kurabi looked at Naruto, and Naruto nodded without objection. Reikage said disdainfully, "Don't talk to me about the future. Not long ago, a crazy masked man told me about the Moon Eye and the Six Paths Sage. These days, there are too many charlatans, I can't tell them apart. I just want to say one thing, Naruto, if this is really the idea just now, it has already involved the interests of the village, I don't agree." Kurabi was stunned for a moment, then took the scroll from Uncle Tutai and looked at it, then said in confusion, "What's the matter, brother, do you mean to choose Naruto to flatten the hidden cloud village?" When Reikage heard what Kurabi said, his hands were shaking with anger. Rebellious brother. She rushed to treat the wound and sighed, fortunately he sewed it quickly, otherwise Reikage's wound would break open again. Naruto looked at the Reikage very calmly and said, "Uncle Reikage, my conditions are very simple. I want the building where the secret technique is hidden in your hidden cloud village. Also, I hope you can show the book of diplomacy, reconcile with Konoha, and form a joint ninja army as soon as possible. After all, compared to me, the masked man is the hidden danger of the entire ninja world." The Reikage said angrily, "Humph, my brother has been brainwashed by you now, what war should I fight and what should I protect?" Naruto frowned and said, "Let me say something unpleasant. Isn't Killer Bee safer with me than in your village?" After hearing what Naruto said, everyone present was silent. Naruto no longer cared about Killer Bee's face, and looked at everyone at the scene with disdain and said, "It's just the masked man with those troops. Fortunately, it was Konoha that attacked. If it was Kumogakure, do you think you can stop it? Just a disguised mutant white Zetsu can drive you crazy." She gritted his teeth. As the head of the perception department of Kumogakure, he did not refute what Naruto said, because it was true. The spies from Kumogakure reported to Konoha and could not detect the mutated white Zetsu at all. This is a very scary thing. White Zetsu has become one of our own, and the defense formation can't detect it at all, and the perception ninja can't sense it either. This assassination is carried out at night, and the guards don't know who to catch. Over time, the whole village will fall into a kind of white terror. No matter how powerful you are, if people are not united, your combat effectiveness will decline rapidly. Therefore, she knew very well why Konoha won and blocked the attack of the masked man. It was purely because of Naruto's help. In other words, once the ninja coalition was formed to fight against White Zetsu, Naruto's power was also indispensable. Seeing everyone silent, Naruto continued, "The purpose of the masked man is very simple, that is, to get the 9 tails and the 8 tails, that is, me and Killer Bee. However, as for the power of your Kumogakure, it is indeed the first in the ninja world, but in front of me, it is not enough. I don't even need the Samsara eye, a tailed beast ball can blow up your Kumogakure." Kurabi listened on the side and nodded in agreement. He was very clear about the power of the tailed beast ball. Omoi was very depressed and muttered in his heart, "Master, are you stupid? People are talking about bombing our village, why are you nodding your head?" Seeing that the group of people were silent, Naruto sighed and said, "I said this not to look down on you, nor to show how powerful I am. I am just seriously explaining a fact to you. If it weren't for Uncle Killer Bee's face, I wouldn't bother to make this agreement with you. I would just learn from you, the Cloud Village, and talk with big fists. Just rob, what can you do?" Darui drew his sword and said angrily, Naruto, don't talk too much. Omoi shouted coldly. Humph, no matter how powerful you are an unreasonable person. You will be defeated in the end, right, master? Kurabi exclaimed, puzzled. What about me? Omoi. Naruto looked at Raikage and said, Uncle Raikage, you know in your heart that Killer Bee is not safe under your protection. Even if you send him to a place with a barrier on the island, suddenly, the masked man will kill you and find Killer Bee. Quote. Raikage's eyes condensed, and he was shocked and said, you actually know that island? Then, looking at Killer Bee said innocently, I haven't told Naruto, but it's not surprising that he knows, he can see the future. Naruto. Okay, I'll stop here, I'll take that building myself. If Raikage wants to stop me, consider the consequences. Raikage gritted his teeth and looked at Naruto. You dare to threaten me? Then, he yelled at Killer Bee, bye, come here, fight with me, and fight Naruto. Kurabi waved his hand in some embarrassment and said, forget it, brother, we can't beat Naruto together. Besides, Naruto is also for the future of the ninja world. He wants these, not for his own strength, nor for the strength of Konoha. You may not believe it if everyone in Kumogakure listens to Naruto now, he will find ways to make everyone stronger. Quote. Naruto nodded, indicating that Killer Bee was right. The Raikage saw that his brother couldn't pull it out, and Naruto was so powerful. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Naruto was silent for a few seconds, then said, Lord Raikage, I will take it as your consent, Uncle B, take me there. Killer Bee glanced at his elder brother, then took Naruto away. Darui roared, where are you going, Naruto? Then he drew his sword and left. Omoi and Karui followed closely behind. Dodai was a little anxious, and looked at the Raikage and said, Lord Raikage, I don't think that Bee is controlled. It should be that as a Jinchuriki, he really saw things that we can't see. Moreover, Bee is a person who has always protected you in the village. If Naruto is really doing something to hurt the village, Lord Bee will definitely fight. Now, Lord Bee doesn't fight, it must be that he sees the future, the village and you may be hurt, so he will choose to help Naruto so that he can protect the village and you in the future. Moreover, if you don't agree to Naruto, with Naruto's strength, I'm afraid that at that time, the village will really. The Raikage stayed where he was, receiving Zai's treatment, listening to Dodai's words, and after a few seconds of contemplation, the Raikage said, Dodai, stop Darui and let Naruto take the building away. Dodai. Yes. After saying this, the Raikage seemed to have given up something, and suddenly felt that his shoulders were much lighter. It was at this time that he felt the pain in his chest. Give me an injection of anesthesia. She looked at his boss with some distress. In the past, the boss never used anesthesia. Even tough guys get hurt sometimes. Here, Killer Bee brought Naruto to the attic in the village. In an instant, more than a dozen ninjas appeared and blocked them. Killer Bee shouted coldly, get out of the way, my elder brother has agreed to let Naruto take this building. The leading Jonin said sternly, I'm sorry, Master B, this is an important place in the village, please stay away as soon as possible, otherwise, don't blame us for not thinking of the friendship of fellow villagers. Kurabi instantly turned into a half-tailed beast and said angrily, it seems that we have to fight. Darui came with a knife and roared, hey, Master B, are you really going to be the enemy of the village for Naruto? Kurabi, my elder brother has accepted it, and you still want to break the agreement. You really want the village to be flattened by Naruto. Darui glanced at Naruto with fear, and the leading Jonin stepped forward, Captain, what should we do? Darui said with sweat on his forehead, prepare for battle. Naruto sighed, is he really going to fight? At this moment, Tutai flashed to the scene and said, stop it. Then, he looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, Lord Raikage agreed that you can take this building away. Darui was surprised and said, what? The boss agreed. Tutai nodded, then looked at the troops guarding here and said, guard troops, retreat, do not stop, this is Lord Raikage's order. Everyone saw that Lord Tutai had spoken, and it was really Lord Raikage's order. Although there were complaints, there was nothing they could do. In the Hidden Cloud Village, ninjas were particularly particular about obeying orders. Kurabi stepped forward and directly transformed into a tailed beast, revealing 8 octopus legs, directly wrapped the entire attic, and then uprooted it. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the ninjas in the entire Hidden Cloud village were hard to accept. Their own Jinchuriki, stealing their own home, which village can bear it? Naruto flew to Hachiko, then looked at Dodai and said, Uncle Dodai, tell Raikage-sama that he will be glad for his decision in the future. With a buzz, Flying Thunder God flew away with the 8 tails wrapped in the attic. With a bang, the 8-tailed beast landed directly on the lake surface of Yuyan with the attic in his arms. Naruto wiped the sweat from his forehead and sighed happily, moved the mark point to land, success. Originally, according to the mark, it was going to land directly on the tower, but considering the force problem, it was safer to land directly on the lake surface. Kurabi said angrily, come on, it's still successful, I'd rather land on the tower. It turned out that in order to keep the attic from getting water, Kurabi wrapped the octopus legs very tightly, and when he fell, he could control the chakra to prevent himself from sinking. Hearing the noise, Nagato and Konan came out. Nagato looked at the building held by Killer Bee, and said to Naruto, brother, what is this? Naruto smiled and said, it's a good thing from outside. He then called Uncle Bee to put the attic on the top of a flat-roofed building in the Hidden Rain village. Then, Killer Bee returned to his human form and sighed, I'm so tired. Naruto pulled Killer Bee and said, don't rest, take us into study together. So, Killer Bee took Naruto, Nagato, and Konan into the attic together. Even Uncle Orochimaru came to join in the fun after hearing the news. While introducing, Killer Bee picked up a few scrolls and prepared to take them out to show his disciples. They were all suitable for thunder attribute training. Konan was surprised to find that there was actually a technique he practiced in it. I never thought that the origami technique that Jiraiya taught me was recorded in such detail here. Nagato was also very surprised and said, there is actually a sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan, which is really rare. Snake licked his fingers with his tongue, then turned a page and browsed excitedly, saying excitedly, it turns out that Kumogakure is also doing some experiments on the human body. Look, the experimental data record of this Jinchuriki is really detailed. Speaking of this, Orochimaru looked at Killer Bee and said, your birth was not easy. Nagato was very surprised and said, the books here are all various techniques. I flipped through more than a dozen books, some from the 5 major villages, and some from other ninja villages. Almost all the well-known villages are here. Konan nodded and said, even the techniques of the disappeared villages are here. Snake Uncle was thoughtful. He looked at the building and guessed, this is obviously a loft that hides secret techniques. In today's world, there is only one village that has such power to collect various secret techniques and preserve them. After that, Orochimaru looked at Killer Bee and said, that is the strongest village in the 5 major countries, the Hidden Cloud village. Nagato looked at Naruto in surprise and said, so, this was snatched back from the Cloud Country. Naruto smiled and said, this loft was given to me by Lord Raikage. Kurabi rapped, that's right, it was Naruto who fought with my brother, and my brother lost, so he gave it to Naruto. Konan said happily, junior brother is so powerful now, I am still worried about what to teach children with other attributes besides my own. Naruto nodded and said, the secret techniques here can basically be used as the source of our power. We can train these 36 children first, and then summon them. At the same time, continue to expand our top power, recruit teams, and attract like-minded people. Orochimaru said, this idea, I feel like I'm back to the Akatsuki organization. Naruto laughed and hugged Uncle Snake and said, there is no way, who called our TN organization, the former the body is Akatsuki, but the real meaning of Akatsuki is dawn, daybreak, light, which is a beautiful vision. And we don't need visions, we only need the future, the actual future. Speaking of this, Naruto looked at Orochimaru and said, Uncle Snake, you should also find a few apprentices to teach. Orochimaru smiled slightly, as if he remembered something and said, forget it, teaching people is too tiring, so I won't do it. Naruto asked, is it because of Sasuke? Or rope tree? Orochimaru remained silent, and then said, I'll go inside to study other books. Naruto sighed. It seems that there is still a trace of softness in Uncle Snake's heart that ordinary people can hardly find. That's right. After all, after the death of teacher Jiraiya in his previous life, Uncle Snake lived like a lustful immortal, running around in the village all day, sometimes crazy, sometimes normal. Nagato and Konan were also studying, and Killer Bee pulled Naruto and said, "Let's go. Come out with me." Quote. Naruto frowned and said, "What for?" Kurabi said, "I'll show you the lightning breathing method and tell you how to activate cells." Naruto was very puzzled and said, "I have the 9 tails chakra and flying thunder god, why should I learn this?" Kurabi thought about it and said to me, "Although the lightning breathing method is very beneficial for the practice of the physical body, with Naruto's current strength, basically no one can get close to him. Even if they get close, they can't be killed under the 9 tails chakra and recover quickly. Then you follow me and show it to those students." Quote. Naruto nodded, "That's fine." So, Kurabi took Naruto to the students' residence and called out Kurabi's class, which had a total of 4 ninja children. Seeing that Naruto was here, the children from other classes came out one after another. Kurabi looked at the 4 people and said, "Okay, today the teacher will thoroughly teach you the lightning breathing method. Although it is AB level ninjutsu, it will be of great benefit to your physical training and your future practice of lightning-related ninjutsu." As he spoke, Kurabi was possessed by lightning, and suddenly, crackling sounds rang out at the scene. The little ghosts exclaimed, especially Kurabi's 4 apprentices, who were so happy. They are all boys, who have worshipped power and longed for power since childhood. Because they are thunder attributed, they have received good guidance and practice, so they have not shown their talents. Omegakure Yahiko was among them. Kurabi looked at the 4 little ghosts and roared, "Follow me to Seal." Quote. The 4 little ghosts hurriedly did as they were told. As a result, they only condensed lightning chakra, but could not emit lightning. "Teacher, I can't feel the lightning." "Yes, teacher, I can't emit it." Kurabi said angrily. Use your heart, you know. It must be emotional." The 4 little ghosts frowned, their faces flushed like shitting. "Teacher, you can't feel it even if you use your heart." Yes. Kurabi raised his eyebrows and was very angry. "I told you to use your heart, so you use your strength, right?" Then he waved his hand directly with a lightning, and a lightning like a snake directly wrapped around the 4 little ghosts. Ah! The 4 little ghosts were crackling with electricity. In the stands, other students shouted, "Oh oh oh oh." Several female classmates covered their eyes, and Chunyu exclaimed, "Too brutal." "Kurabi, do you feel it now?" Quote. The 4 little ghosts nodded in succession, and Yuyin Yahiko took the lead and said, I feel it. "Very good, not bad." So, Kurabi asked the 4 little ghosts to condense the lightning chakra again and began to practice. As a result, several people were still like before, their faces were flushed, and no lightning flowers appeared on their bodies. Kurabi sighed and looked at the 4 little ghosts with a frightened expression, fearing that he would start to release lightning again. He came over, held the hand of Yuyin Yahiko, and then asked Yahiko to hold the hands of the other 3 little friends. "Everyone pay attention, follow me." As he said, Kurabi began to breathe in and out, and then in an instant, thunder and lightning were everywhere, and the lightning crackled on the 4 little ghosts. Yahiko Yuyin was electrocuted and stuttered, Master, we feel it. It's here." Kurabi shook his head and said, "Hold it, feel it carefully. The reason why you can't condense it is that the connection points between cells are not open, now feel it carefully." Hearing Kurabi's words, the 4 little ghosts hurried to feel it quietly. Kurabi's chakra current flowed through the 4 little ghosts, helping them to adjust, and slowly, the 4 people began to emit their own lightning chakra. Kurabi smiled slightly, because he felt it, proving that doing so was effective. Because lightning attracts each other, after Kurabi discovered the lightning chakra of the 4 little ghosts, he immediately used his own lightning chakra to induce, forcing the lightning chakra in their bodies to come out. Yahiko Yuyin frowned slightly, because he found that the lightning power in his body wanted to come out of his body more and more under the stimulation of external current. However, he felt as if there was a membrane between him and it was difficult to come out, which was very uncomfortable. He wanted to spray out, but was blocked. Killer Bee noticed it and immediately increased the current. Several people looked in pain and made uncomfortable sounds because of the strong current. Naruto watched from the side, frowning slightly. He knew what Killer Bee was doing, because when he was practicing the Sage mode in his previous life, when he condensed the Sage chakra, Master Fukasaku also made similar moves to help him condense the Sage chakra. Although this method is good, it also has a disadvantage. Once too much chakra is accumulated, it may get out of control. Just like absorbing the sage chakra, if Master Fukasaku hadn't whipped him in time with a whip, his body might be deformed at any time. The same is true for the 4 little ghosts in front of him. Under the constant stimulation of the current, if they haven't exploded successfully, they may explode and die. Kurabi frowned slightly. If he still didn't come out under this kind of stimulation, he would have to increase the current. A sizzling sound broke out, and suddenly, 3 little ghosts couldn't resist at all, and made ah-ah-ah sounds. Naruto exclaimed, "Uncle Bai." Kurabi sighed and prepared to stop. Yuyin Yahiko said, "I can still resist, master, don't let go." As he said that, Yuyin Yahiko controlled his lightning chakra and condensed it on his partner's hand. With a snap, the partner holding hands with Yuyin Yahiko was directly bounced away. Kurabi was slightly surprised. This Yahiko has been able to control lightning chakra continuously, and he also understands the principle of like repels like and opposites attract. He can use the principle of attributes to directly bounce the connection away. It turns out that when the electricity is on, when people are connected, their hands will only get tighter and tighter, and it is impossible to let go, but Yuyin Yahiko is very smart and actually directly uses the principle of attribute repulsion. "Master, come again, I'm almost there." Kurabi nodded after hearing this, and continued to increase his cellular breathing method. Crackling, crackling. The sudden current made the onlookers thrilling. The 3 people who were thrown away looked at Yahiko, who was electrocuted and was still gritting his teeth to persist, and even had blood bitten at the corners of his mouth. They were immediately full of admiration. For the 3 people who had just experienced being electrocuted, they knew the pain and felt that every cell was being whipped. In an instant, the 3 of them seemed to be Yahiko. "Come on, Yahiko. Hold on, Yahiko. Come on, Yahiko." The 3 people shouted for Yahiko. Not far away, Haruyu covered her mouth with tears in her eyes, looking at the boy who worked so hard in the field. She couldn't hold it in any longer, crying and shouting, "Yahiko, come on." It was like a ray of light suddenly shining into Yahiko's heart in the darkness. He seemed to have found an exit, soaring into the sky, eyes wide open, and roaring, "Ah!" Kurabi saw this and instantly dodged. Then, electric currents burst out from Yahiko's body and shot in all directions, crackling and bursting on the lake, stirring up waves. Kurabi nodded with satisfaction and said, not bad, it can be considered as opening the meridians." After the explosion, Yahiko gasped heavily, then knelt down directly with his hands on the water, and water drops kept falling from his hair and dripping on the water. Yahiko looked at his reflection on the water, and suddenly, he smiled, very happily. The other 3 people also came over, hugged Yahiko, and smiled happily. As a war orphan, nothing makes people happier than gaining power. Kurabi walked up to Yahiko, threw him a scroll and said, "Next, you will practice what is in this scroll. Although you have successfully opened your meridians and can mobilize the lightning chakra, your body is not strong enough for the time being. You must understand that when practicing the lightning breathing method, your body must be strong. If it is not strong, you can't withstand such a high current, nor can you withstand the air friction resistance under high-speed movement." Yahiko was overjoyed and kowtowed to thank him. "Thank you, master." Yes, he gained power, a kind of power that he felt that as long as he practiced well with the master, he would become extremely powerful. Kurabi looked at the other 3 people and said, "Don't be lazy, you 3, I have already shocked you once today, and I will continue to shock you tomorrow until you open your meridians." When the 3 little ghosts heard this, they were like eggplants hit by frost. Yuyin Haruyu looked at Yahiko from a distance and laughed secretly. Xiaonan noticed this and suddenly felt that Haruyu's smile was exactly the same as when she saw Yahiko that year. She walked over and looked at Chunyu and said, "Are you looking at him?" When Chunyu saw that the angel asked her, she blushed as if someone had guessed her secret, and said, "Ah. I'm just happy for my companion." Xiaonan smiled and said, "A girl's blush is better than too many words." After hearing this, Chunyu's ears also turned red. Seemingly having a good impression of this little girl, Xiaonan lowered her body and asked, "Are you willing to practice with me, although my skills are not particularly combat-oriented?" When Chunyu heard that the angel wanted to be her master, She was so happy that she said, yes, yes, I don't really like fighting. Xiaonan smiled and touched her head. The 36 children of Yuyin are the hope of Yuyin in the future and the important force under Naruto in the future. Because there is still a long time before the arrival of Otsutsuki, training this group of people and then training the next group of people will form a backbone force, which is Naruto's personal guard. But at present, Naruto's power is not enough. These children are only the future and cannot solve the current power. Killer Bee and Conan, including Nagato who came, are constantly teaching these children, and even the three of them have accepted their own disciples as the teachers. Thinking of this, Naruto thought of Konohamaru, his number one younger brother and his own disciple. He sighed, thinking that because of his affairs, Konohamaru had argued with others in the village to defend him. Just as he was thinking, Naruto frowned suddenly. Because he sensed a strange chakra, Killer Bee also hummed and looked at Naruto and said, Naruto. Naruto nodded and said, I noticed it. With that, Naruto turned and left. Outside the Hidden Rain village, in a forest, Naruto flew down and looked around. The strange chakra disappeared again in an instant. He frowned, instantly turned on the Nine Tails mode, and then immediately locked the target. Come out. As soon as the voice fell, a rustling voice came, and Black Zetsu emerged from the trees. I've heard of you for a long time, Naruto. Naruto smiled in surprise, so it's you. I was wondering just now, who can cause the tailed beast chakra in my body to move abnormally? Black Zetsu laughed, shocking, right. That's right, because I am good friends with the 9 tails in your body and the 8 tails in your rain village, but they don't know me. Naruto snorted coldly. If he hadn't been reborn from his previous life, he would have been shocked at this moment. But now, Naruto just watched him pretending, and didn't want to expose him. Black Zetsu walked over to Naruto, looked at him and said, Naruto-kun, I want to know what your purpose is, why you did so much. Naruto pretended to frown and said, did Obito ask you to come here and ask this? Black Zetsu put his hands behind his back, and said, no, I asked this question as myself. Naruto pretended to be puzzled and said, aren't you Madara's consciousness? You stayed with Obito to help him complete the Moon Eye project. Black Zetsu laughed after hearing this and said, you are just like those people in the world, just living in the cognition of what you see. Naruto smiled in his heart, little guy, you are still pretending, I fought with you in the previous life, and I personally threw you to the moon and sealed you up. At that time, you cried for your parents and were so scared. Black Zetsu looked at Naruto and said with a playful smile, I'll say something you may not understand. In my eyes, your history is just a daily routine. Even some of your major events are just my means. The reason you can see it is because I want you to see it. Naruto snorted coldly and said, your arrogant tone has not changed. Without dwelling on the meaning of Naruto's words just now, Black Zetsu just thought that Naruto expressed doubt and disbelief in his words. He looked at Naruto and asked, you haven't answered my question yet, Naruto. Naruto said with a smile, why should I answer your question? Black Zetsu cursed in his heart. Sure enough, he is not a guy who plays by the rules. Ashura's reincarnations are all so annoying, and they are not as easy to fool as Indra's reincarnations. Black Zetsu smiled and said, perhaps, I can help you achieve your goal. Naruto was interested in what Black Zetsu said. This guy actually wanted to fool him. It was really interesting. Okay, let's listen to what he said first, so that I can fool him. So, Naruto looked at Black Zetsu and asked, why should I believe what an enemy said? Who knows if you were sent by Obito to deceive me? Black Zetsu smiled slightly and said, Obito is just a part of my plan. Naruto asked in a fake tone, oh, so, you are still the master behind the scenes. Black Zetsu, of course. Naruto frowned and said, I can't believe you just because of your words, unless you can show some sincerity. Black Zetsu nodded and said, okay, but, yes, tell me first, what is the purpose of doing so far? Quote. Naruto thought about it, and then pretended to be deep, to eliminate the hatred in this world and welcome true peace. Black Zetsu narrowed his eyes, said, oh, and looked at Naruto. Naruto sighed and said, I already know that my father is the 4th generation, and I also know how my mother died, so I know the true identity of Obito. As he said, Naruto pretended to be disgusted and said, I hate this kind of killing caused by war, hatred, and politics, and the mutual fighting between villages because of power. I want to end this chaotic world and unify the ninja world. Quote. Black Zetsu doubtfully said, then your wish is the same as Obito's. The Moonai project is to bring peace to this hypocritical world. Naruto snorted coldly and said, you said this, do you believe it yourself? Black Zetsu was stunned by Naruto, and then said, then why do you think the Moonai project doesn't work? Quote. Naruto threw his coat and said, I can rely on my own powerful strength and killing to make my own ninja world kneel at my feet, obey my rule, and concentrate all the hatred on me. Isn't this more real and reliable than going to that dreamlike world? Quote. Black Zetsu swallowed his saliva. Sure enough, the reincarnation of Ashura is different. It's still easier to deceive the reincarnation of Indra. Just change the stone tablet, let him open a Mangekyo Sharingan, and go up to see it. After Naruto finished speaking, he did not forget to ask Black Zetsu, don't you think there is no good in dreaming? No matter how realistic it is fake. Why not join me to conquer the ninja world and calm down the turmoil in this ninja world? Quote. Black Zetsu hummed, very surprised, this guy actually wants to pull him into the group. What should I do? It's obvious that Naruto has turned evil, and it's not impossible to use him for my own benefit if I take advantage of him a little. Oh, it's a bit of a headache. It's the first time that Black Zetsu has met two reincarnations who have turned evil together, which has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that there is no direct resistance at all, and they all want to drag the entire ninja world into the water. The disadvantage is that the evil Naruto does not cooperate with the people on his side, and they are in a competitive relationship. This. One wants the whole world to dream, and the other wants the world to be unified. For a moment, Black Zetsu was a little undecided. Naruto looked at Black Zetsu and said, hey, I've told you my purpose, you should be sincere. Black Zetsu frowned and said, what do you want? Quote. Naruto chuckled, and Black Zetsu felt a little uneasy. How could this guy seem to see through him? From what you said, you seem to have lived a long life, even longer than Madara. Black Zetsu said disdainfully, what's Madara? He's just a junior in front of me. Naruto's mouth twitched slightly. This guy really deserves a beating. He will seal him on the moon in this life. If that's the case, I want to ask, how did Madara's samsara eye open? Seeing Naruto ask this, Black Zetsu narrowed his eyes and stared at Naruto with a serious face. Kid, what are you planning? Naruto sneered and said, I am testing your sincerity. Black Zetsu frowned and said, what do you mean by this? Naruto looked at Black Zetsu and said, you should understand that there are certain reasons why I can successfully control the samsara eye. I believe you should also understand this very well. Looking at Naruto's eyes, Black Zetsu seemed to see through him. Why does this Naruto look like he knows everything, and it seems that he is testing himself and asking him to say something before he is willing to believe himself. Looking at Naruto's half-smiley expression, Black Zetsu's heart denied it again. Because it is impossible, he is the person who has lived the longest in this ninja world and the person who has been planning this ninja world for the longest time. So far, everything is still under his control. And this Naruto is just a small variable in his own layout. Black Zetsu snorted coldly, and said with confidence, I guided Madara to open his samsara eye. When he was fighting with Hashirama, he bit off a piece of flesh and blood from Hashirama. At the same time, he engraved a forbidden technique in his eyes in advance to bring himself back to life, and then merged the flesh and blood of Hashirama that he bit off with himself, and then successfully opened the samsara eye. After Black Zetsu finished speaking, he looked at Naruto and said, I know that you are also planning to cultivate the samsara eye. After all, you took away Danzo's arm, but I want to tell you that the real secret of opening the samsara eye is not that simple. Naruto said, I heard from Obito that Hashirama is the reincarnation of Ashura, and Madara is the reincarnation of Indra. He also said that Sasuke and I are the reincarnations of this life. As long as I get Sasuke's flesh and blood, it will be fine. Black Zetsu heard Naruto say this, and his heart was immediately settled. Naruto, he really only knows one thing, not the other. Humph, he just scared himself, thinking he really knew something. Black Zetsu looked at Naruto and said, you only know one thing. Madara can successfully open the Samsara Eye because he is Indra himself, and his eyes are the Eye of Indra. The necessary condition for opening the Samsara Eye is the Eye of Indra, plus the power of Ashura and Indra combined, otherwise it won't work at all. Why don't you think Obito open the Samsara Eye himself and win over Sasuke? Is it really to cultivate his own people for revenge? I think too much. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly. Through the trick, he was sure that Black Zetsu really wanted to win him over, and he even said such a top secret. In addition, he also confirmed a fact that Obito was using Sasuke as an experiment, or a very important chess piece of his. He felt a little uneasy, and looked at the Black Zetsu in front of him and said, what you said is indeed top secret. It seems that you are very sincere. Tell me, how can you help me? Black Zetsu smiled. Not bad, not bad, this Ashura seems to be included in his plan. Judging from the situation, the moment of his mother's resurrection is just around the corner. Humph, Yuya, in this life, both of your sons have been deceived by you, and your ninja clan is not far from being finished. The Samsara Eye has many uses. I guess you haven't discovered it yet. I can teach you how to develop the real Samsara Eye. Looking at Black Zetsu's evil smile, Naruto frowned and said, the real Samsara Eye. Black Zetsu nodded and said, that's right. You want to control the entire ninja world, so the tailed beasts are crucial as the power needed to control the world. The real use of the Samsara Eye is to control these tailed beasts and make them obedient. Naruto said, oh, seeing that Naruto had taken the bait, Black Zetsu laughed and said, of course, but before I teach you, I also have conditions. Naruto frowned and said, what conditions? Black Zetsu looked at Naruto and said, I need to leave a stream of chakra in your body. Naruto's face instantly became serious. Seeing this, Black Zetsu said, don't worry, it's just a stream of chakra, it's just to facilitate communication between you and me. Naruto snorted coldly, you think I'm an idiot? Madara was directly ripped out of his heart by you, and he didn't move. As for the reason, it must be something you left in his body, otherwise Madara couldn't move. Naruto threw his coat and said, I will consider your proposal again. With that, Naruto turned around and left directly. Black Zetsu has. Some are confused, this guy, there is no room for bargaining, just drive away. Sure enough, the reincarnation of Asura is not as easy to fool as the reincarnation of Indra. However, it is not without gain, at least Naruto did not refuse, and he was very happy to accept the conditions he offered, which is a good sign. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu smiled and hid underground. He wanted to go back and see how Obito was doing. White Zetsu Base. Sasuke was lying on the operating table, with many medical testing equipment attached to his body. Kabuto was watching on the side, frowning slightly. Do you think this will really work? Obito folded his hands, leaned behind him and said, this is how Madara opened the Samsara Eye, and this is what he told me. Kabuto seemed a little excited, especially when he looked at the face of Hashirama in front of Sasuke's chest. He felt that he was approaching the original power of this world. Ah, the six-path sage, this man from the legend, I am now analyzing the source of his power, it is so intoxicating. Kabuto even wanted to shout, Lord Orochimaru, you saw it, you saw my achievement. Obito looked at the field, and suddenly his eyes looked to the side, and sure enough, there was a rustling sound, and Black Zetsu came out from the ground. Obito frowned and said, where did you go? Black Zetsu said, I went outside to investigate and found that Naruto went to Konoha, then went to the Land of Lightning, fought with the Raikage, and took away a loft in the Land of Lightning that contains secret techniques. Obito said, oh, and was very surprised, so, the Raikage was defeated by Naruto. Black Zetsu nodded, yes. Obito snorted coldly, thinking of the Raikage at the 5-cage meeting, and couldn't help but say, that old man, it's good to beat him up, but Naruto is so idle, why did he go to the Land of Lightning to fight with the Raikage? Black Zetsu replied, according to the information from White Zetsu, that was because the Land of Lightning requires Konoha to either hand over the 8 Tails or the Hyuga Princess Hinata, otherwise it will go to war with Konoha, and the so-called alliance will not exist. Quote. Obito touched his chin, showing a playful smile and said, so that's it, Naruto, I can't believe that compared to the village and the master, this woman is Naruto's lifeline. Black Zetsu came over and said, "Do you want to do something?" Obito looked at Sasuke in the field and said, "Well, Sasuke's evolution is still unknown. Before that, once the coalition of the 5 major countries is formed, it will be very disadvantageous to us, so it is necessary to make some moves to let them guess themselves." Quote. It was night. Obito's space-time vortex appeared on the defensive wall of Konoha, and then he sneaked into Konoha village. After searching for a while, he came to Hinata Hyuga's house. Through the seal search, he found the person he was looking for. So he activated the space-time vortex and prepared to enter it, but who knew that after the space-time vortex was activated, it was blocked. Obito was slightly stunned and said in surprise, "There is a barrier." Just as he was about to break it by force, Shadow Clone Naruto appeared beside him. "What are you doing here?" Obito smiled slightly and said, "You were really careful. You actually set up a barrier here and left a shadow clone. Your master didn't get such treatment." Shadow Clone Naruto snorted coldly and said, "I have synchronized your information with my master, so if nothing unexpected happens, my master's strength is more than enough to deal with you." Obito snorted coldly. "It seems that I can't get in here. Anyway, I guess that you would set up defenses." Naruto frowned and said, "Obito, to be honest, I really don't like you at this moment. You always like to threaten others with things they care about. Is it fun? If Lin is alive, I will also threaten you with her. Are you happy?" Hearing Naruto talking about Lin, Obito was instantly angry and said, "Don't mention this to me." Naruto snorted coldly and said, "My mother used to be so good to you, but in the end, when I was born, you played a good trick. It seems that it is difficult to face that history." Obito pretended to sneer and said, "This world is so absurd and hypocritical, but it doesn't matter. In the Moon Eye plan, I will reunite your family. If possible, I will also appear perfectly in your dream." As he said, Obito's time and space vortex started and disappeared. Shadow Clone Naruto snorted coldly, and transmitted what just happened with the seal, and continued to lurk at Hinata Hyuga's house. On the second floor, Hinata opened the window, looked at the moon in the sky, and missed Naruto. According to his father, the Land of Lightning has officially apologized to Konoha and withdrawn the diplomatic book that was previously issued. This shows that Naruto went to the Land of Lightning and dealt with it severely, making the other side surrender. Hinata was really happy when she thought of this. It was really nice to have someone to support her. Now, the elders of the family are polite to her. Even her father has to ask for her opinion when he makes a decision. This was impossible in the past. Even if she was a young lady, she would not be treated like this. All of this was fought for by Naruto. Moreover, after hearing that all this was done by Naruto, the Hokage personally brought Jiraiya to visit her. Jiraiya even said frankly that he would personally be Naruto's father at his wedding with Naruto in the future. After saying that, he did not forget to laugh and hug the Hokage and said, "Tsunade, you will be Naruto's mother." As a result, she was punched away by Tsunade and directly knocked down an outer wall. Now the clan members are still repairing it. In Yuyin, Naruto, who was resting in the room, suddenly received a synchronous message from the shadow clone, and then sighed. Obito was making trouble again. It was probably because there was no progress on his side for the time being. Like himself, he was afraid of the formation of the ninja coalition of the 5 major countries, so he secretly made some things to split the 5 major countries. Interesting, really interesting. Naruto smiled slightly. Obito could do this, which meant that he felt the crisis, so he couldn't slack off, and had to take the initiative to bring him some pressure. With that, Naruto left Yuyin again. He was going to meet an old and capable friend. Using the big bird summoned by the animal path, Naruto sat on it all night and finally arrived at the Sand Country at dawn. Finally here. In his previous life, in order to save Gaara, Naruto stayed here for a long time, so Naruto was very familiar with this place, and even a little nostalgic. Because of Gaara's trust in him and the Sand Ninja's trust in Konoha, it was especially good during Gaara's tenure. So, after Naruto entered the Land of Sand, he did not cover his tracks at all and flew directly to the Sand Ninja village. As a result, before he arrived at the village, he found something wrong. What were the Sand Ninjas doing? Were they fighting? Why were there fireworks? To be on the safe side, Naruto removed the big bird and turned on the Sage mode. style, using the levitation power of the sky, hiding directly on the ground, flying towards the Sand Village. Sand Village. Case Cage Gaara leads the Sand Ninjas and is fighting. Who are you? Gaara looked angrily at the man who put detonating tags everywhere in the village, and it was difficult to catch him. There were 7 people in total, wearing the same clothes as Naruto that day. You can't recognize me, Gaara. Hearing this voice, Gaara was slightly shocked. Then, the gauze was removed, and it was Naruto's appearance. Temari was surprised and said, Naruto, why did you attack our village? Kanjuro gritted his teeth and said, you fool, Naruto still treats you as a friend, you actually. Seeing that the other party was so angry, the man who looked like Naruto laughed and said, today is different from the past. Now I want to attack your village and get your power. You should have heard that I attacked the Raikage and made them hand over the secret technique. The same is true for you, hand it over. Kanjuro said angrily, you guy. As soon as the voice fell, Gaara said, no, you are not. The man who looked like Naruto frowned and said, why are you so sure? Gaara said very confidently, I don't know who you are, but I am sure that you are definitely not Naruto, because although you are 7 people, your abilities are almost the same. We can't attack your entity. According to me, as far as I know, this is not Naruto's ability. Moreover, the most important thing is that the real Naruto, even if he leaves Konoha village, will not launch such an attack on my village. Quote. Speaking of this, Gaara raised a confident smile at the corner of his mouth and said, because I am Naruto's friend, Naruto will not attack his friends. The man who looked like Naruto sneered and said, friend, you can think of it, I have never taken you as a friend. Gaara smiled and said, so, you are not the real Naruto. Moreover, according to my analysis, you should be the masked man. After all, the ability to attack penetration, so far, only he has the ability in the ninja world. Well said, Gaara. A sudden voice sounded, and Naruto rushed directly from the outside of the wall with a whoosh, and then raised his head and shouted, Shinra Tensei. With a chirp, the man who looked like Naruto was directly blown away by the sudden repulsion. Looking at this familiar figure, Gaara shouted excitedly, Naruto. As the number 1 Naruto in the ninja world, Gaara was dreaming even in the moon-eye dream in his previous life that Naruto came to play with him when he was a child, which shows how important Naruto's friendship is to him. So, when he saw Naruto coming to attack the Sand Ninja, he absolutely didn't believe it, especially after the fight, he was more certain. Now, the real Naruto has appeared, and the misunderstanding has been completely resolved. Kankuro looked at Naruto coming over, and then looked at Naruto in the distance warily and said, since you are the real Naruto, who is the fake guy over there? Temari frowned and said, it should be the masked man. Didn't Gaara say that only the man named Madara has used this kind of penetrating ability so far? Gaara looked at Naruto and said happily, why are you here? Naruto smiled and said, I originally wanted to talk to you about something, but I didn't expect that this time I really came to the right place. Someone actually came to pretend to be me. After that, Naruto looked at Gaara and said, don't move here, I'll go beat this guy up first. As he said that, Naruto rushed directly. Kankuro and Temari were ready to help, but Gaara stopped them and said, no, Naruto said he doesn't need help, which proves that he can definitely do it. As he said that, he watched the fight on the spot. Naruto flew over, threw a Rasengan, and then penetrated directly. Naruto smiled slightly and said, it's really you. After penetrating, Obito quickly seized the opportunity, grabbed Naruto's arm, and then opened the space-time vortex and sucked him in directly. It's me, so what? Naruto snorted and raised his eyelids. Chew. Shinra Tensei directly bounced Obito away. Obito groaned and was hit hard. Naruto sneered, to deal with you, I'm too lazy to jump to Flying Thunder God. Don't think that you can be powerful enough to deal with me just because you get back your other eye and open the double Kamui. After his identity was exposed, Obito no longer hid, unlocked the transformation technique, revealed his original face, and eliminated all the 6 shadow clones. Naruto saw Obito reveal his true form and teased, hey, you got your eyes back, and there's an extra hole on your mask. Obito gritted his teeth and said, Naruto, don't be too happy too soon. You're just relying on the power of the Samsara Eye to barely suppress me now. Naruto snorted coldly, Which one do you think you can beat me in, Nine Tails mode or Sage mode? Besides, I also have the space-time ninjutsu Flying Thunder God, how can you fight me? You guy. Obito's heart was full of hatred. Since Naruto appeared, all his subsequent arrangements seemed to be strangled by someone. Especially now, he frowned and looked at Naruto and said, "How did you know I was here? Could it be?" Obito recalled that he had removed the Flying Thunder God mark on his body, but last time in Konoha, one of Naruto's shadow clones seemed to have entered his own space-time. Could it be that this guy also left the Flying Thunder God mark in his own space-time? Obito's face darkened when he thought of this. This guy, how come he is just like his father, marking wherever he goes, how can he be so annoying? Facing Obito's questioning, Naruto spread his hands helplessly and said, "I can't help it, it's just that we are so destined to be together. I came here to find Gaara, but I met you here, and you disguised yourself as me and caused trouble." Naruto looked at the sand village with smoke everywhere, and suddenly looked at Obito angrily and said, "Obito, do you really think I can't do anything to you, and you ruin my reputation outside like this?" Obito snorted coldly and said, "Your reputation still needs to be ruined. As a rebel ninja in Konoha, you are well known in the 5 major countries." Gaara listened hearing Obito's words. He stepped forward and said, "Konoha has not issued any official document about Naruto being a traitor, and the Sand Country has not agreed to the proposal to make Naruto an international wanted criminal, and even the other major countries have not agreed. But you, sir, have already become a great enemy of the ninja world, and even just recently declared war on our 5 major countries." Naruto spread his hands and said, "Look." Obito snorted coldly. The time and space vortex opened, and said a cruel word, "Naruto, we'll see." With that, he fled directly. Naruto did not chase him, because there was no point. Obito. For him now, he can get rid of him, but he wants to keep Obito. Because of Obito, the alliance of the 5 major countries is meaningful, and some people will be forced to agree to cooperate, which is conducive to his own recruitment in the future. More importantly, Sasuke can grow and the Samsara Eye can be cultivated. To a certain extent, Obito is not only a part of Black Zetsu's plan, but also a part of Naruto's plan. In essence, as long as Obito is within the controllable range, there is basically no problem. After sending Obito away, Naruto flew back to Gaara. Gaara was very happy, but when he saw Naruto's Samsara Eye, he was still a little sad. "Naruto, your eyes make me feel a little strange. It is said that eyes are the windows of the soul. When I saw Naruto before, Gaara could see through those eyes and see the most sincere love in Naruto's heart for friends and companions. That is the most attractive place for Gaara, and it warms his lonely heart the most. But now, Naruto has the eyes of a sage. Although he has great power, all Gaara sees is indifference." Naruto smiled bitterly and said, "I don't want to do this either." "There is no way." Gaara nodded. He knew that Naruto must have his reasons. "By the way, you just said that you came to me for something. What is it?" Naruto looked at Temari and Kankuro behind him. Gaara knew what he meant and said, "Well, I'll go out of the village with you." Temari stepped forward and said, "No, Gaara, you are the cage now. You can't go out of the village casually. Even if you want to go, we have to follow you." Kankuro also said, "Yes, if it was before, I would have nothing to say, but Naruto now, after all." Kankuro's implication was very obvious. Naruto's intentions were unclear. They couldn't joke about the safety of the cage. Gaara turned around and smiled, "Don't worry. The masked man who called himself Madara couldn't handle Naruto and ran away when he saw him. Do you think Naruto really wants to harm me? Can you protect me with you around?" Temari. This. Kankuro. After saying that, Gaara waved his hand and said, "Help me appease the ninjas in the village, and take care of the damaged buildings and restore them as soon as possible." After the instructions were completed, Gaara took Naruto away, leaving Temari and Kankuro with helpless faces. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.